Hi, welcome to Bald Eagle Watching Days in our 35th rendition. My name's Jeb Barzin, and I'm going to be your host today, and I hope that we'll have a good presentation, set of presentations for you and have things as interesting as they can be. The first thing, of course, is that this is being done in a COVID-appropriate manner, and so that's why we're masked. And so for the purposes of being a little bit more interesting for you, I'm going to take off my mask here, but everybody here in the stage, the few people that are here, we're all socially distanced and wearing masks when we're not talking with you. As a COVID-appropriate thing, we're bringing Bald Eagle Watching Days to you on a virtual basis, but we're going to try and make it as lively and as interesting and as following the traditions of Bald Eagle Watching Days of past as best as we can. And so we've got a great lineup for you today. But it's, first of all, I think important to introduce the co-hosts of Bald Eagle Watching Days. They are Fairy Bluff Eagle Council, a nonprofit organization here in the local Lower Wisconsin area, our Sauk Prairie Chamber of Commerce, and the Tripp Heritage Museum, and our Department of Natural Resources, but specifically the Bureau of Natural Heritage Conservation. And without these co-hosts, we couldn't bring you Bald Eagle Watching Days. We're a small community, and this is a big event, and it really takes a great team to pull that together, and we're very appreciative of them. And of course, we also have sponsors. Our event sponsor is Alliant Energy Foundation, and you know, though it sounds like it sounds silly, but it's a great way that Alliant can keep the lights on but do good conservation work, and we appreciate that. We also have Wollersheim Winery, who is an event sponsor, and they not only are able to offer you great tasting wine and spirits, but they're providing for habitat in the bluffs that you see in that image behind you, habitat for bald eagles to soar and also sleep at night in their communal roosts. And so they're actively engaged in conservation. We also have supports from stewards and advocates who, even though they may not have bald eagle habitat in their backyards, they still contribute to bald eagle conservation by supporting us in Eagle Days and in various ways of the activities that Fairy Bluff has in our region. And finally, our local businesses are equally important in that they believe in eagles and they do what they can to make good habitats for eagles in our general area, in our Sauk Prairie area that we as people share with our eagle friends when they come to our area. And without their caring, we just wouldn't be able to bring this on. Those are our sponsors, and we're highly appreciative of all of their efforts. So what brings us to the Sauk Prairie area, in some ways, is the same thing that brings eagles to our Sauk Prairie area. And so we thought we'd start today with just asking the basic question of why are they here? Why are those eagles coming here and concentrating in the area, and thus defining why we are here, why we're interested in coming to the Sauk Prairie area. So I thought I'd show you a little bit of information that we've gathered on eagles that come to our Sauk Prairie area and spend the winter here, and really address that simple question of why are they here? And so I will start a slideshow that addresses that. I don't have anything on the screen. Is it up? There we go. Thank you. So eagles can concentrate in our area. This is a picture of Eagle Island from 2009, and there's lots of eagles perching on it. And why in the world would so many eagles come to our area and spend the winter time? What is it that they find that's interesting here that is not available elsewhere? Because eagles are highly mobile, and they can pretty well go anywhere on the continent of North America to find food. So why do they choose to gather in our lower Wisconsin area? Of course, for food. And in the lower Wisconsin River, there's abundant fish, and they can find that food. But the question becomes a little bit more complicated than that, because of course fish are located all throughout the lower Wisconsin River, but we don't have eagles that are occurring in winter all throughout that area. So that answer alone isn't enough to solve our curiosity. So of course most people point to the dam, and we began by showing the Alliant Foundation and Alliant Energy keeping the lights on with a dam at Prairie du Sac. And so of course the dam creates that open water that eagles need. But there are 26 dams on the lower Wisconsin, or excuse me, 26 dams on the Wisconsin River, but only one that has eagles concentrating at them. So what makes the dam at Prairie du Sac special? It can't be just that it's creating open water. There's got to be some other things to that, and we'll try to explore that a little bit. There are places in the bluffs where eagles will concentrate at nighttime, and they sleep in things that we call roosts. Roosts are not nests. They are perhaps one tree that might have 15 eagles perched on it, or 100 eagles perched in a bowl using several trees that are in the area. But regardless, we think that they find a safe place to be sleeping at night when they're vulnerable, but also probably a place that's a little bit warmer than the ambient temperatures in the surrounding areas of just being perched in an open exposed tree. We can't prove it, but we think that that's the reason why they gather in these areas. But what's important for eagle conservation is that they do gather in these bluffs, and not just any bluff, but the bluffs that are located close to the lower Wisconsin River. The birds are also here because they've got undeveloped shorelines along those rivers, and that's places where birds can perch. And the perching is both to save energy. On a cold, blustery winter day, it's a whole lot warmer to be standing with your arms close to your sides and your body as small as possible so that you're conserving all the heat that's in your body as much as possible. But a perch also is an active way that birds forage. They can sit on a perch, and with great eyesight, they can watch a smorgasbord of food that passes by, and if they see something that strikes their fancy, they can fly off of that perch, snatch it quickly from the water in the river, and fly back to their perch. And so these safe, undisturbed perches located close to the river are really important for the foraging ecology of the birds. And a thing that a lot of people don't pay much attention to is that we have these agricultural fields, cornfields that are out there. And of course, eagles are not eating corn. They are carnivores and scavengers, and they're eating predominantly meat. They don't find corn in the field to be desirable, but what they do find is if a deer is hit by a car and wanders off into a cornfield and dies, that's food for an eagle. But it's food in a place that is safe for eagles. Bald eagles, one of the leading causes of mortality that we know about for bald eagles is being hit by a car. They're hit by a car because they're often feeding on dead animals that are located close to the shoulder of the road, and when they're feeding on those animals, they don't respond quickly enough and just fly before a car comes, and the car hits them and will injure or kill the bird. But if they're on a dead deer in the middle of a cornfield, they can see danger coming from a long ways away. They can react to that danger in an appropriate amount of time, and they can take flight and get high enough so that that danger is not going to be a problem for them. So it is a much safer place for an eagle to feed in a cornfield than it would be, say, next to a road. So all these four things, the dam, the undeveloped shorelines, the roosts where birds sleep at night that are located close to the river, and cornfields are all important, but they don't change so much during the winter time. What makes this area so special year in and year out? Food is a variable kind of thing. Gizzard shad are things that eagles will eat, and sometimes there's a lot and sometimes not many in a particular area. But when these foods become available, the eagles will concentrate and feed on these areas, but those foods also have to be a place where birds can find. So when the birds are on this water, these are locations of eagles that we have in the area, and all those red dots are places where birds were found feeding during the daytime. And see, they're located all right close to the river, and the yellow dots are places where the birds are sleeping at night. So they need to be able to sleep close to the river as well as feed close to the river, even though they're completely different habitats. When they're in those roosts, the birds are really just conserving energy and possibly learning from each other as to where their next meal might come from. A bird coming into a roost with a full crop is a bird that has been successful at foraging, and birds might follow those successful birds to other areas. And in that cornfield, it's a safe place to be. But the other thing that's really important for these birds is if the food's there, but you can't get access to it, it's not of much good to you. So when the ice is covering much of the Wisconsin River, the birds have to shift to where they can find that open water. And that's probably where the dam at Prairie du Sac becomes really important. Not necessarily all winter long, but in the parts of the winter when the river becomes fully iced over. So the Sauk Prairie area is in the upper right-hand corner, and the dam is just north or just upriver of that of the actual community. But the places where birds sleep at night, for example, goes all the way down to Lone Rock, Wisconsin. That's about 35 river miles away. And yet the birds will often be spending most of their time in that downriver area. And in the upriver area, near the Sauk Prairie area, they only come when the ice is very abundant on the river. So this downriver area and upriver area is a place that we'll control, or that I'll talk about. And so if you have downriver area and the ice cover in the yellow bars, basically when there's not much ice on the river, the birds in the blue lines are located downriver. But as that ice increases in January and February, for example, the number of eagles using that area decrease. But at the same time, whoops, we're having a little technical glitch here. But at the same time, when birds go upriver, there's not much ice on the river, but it is when the ice is downriver. And so basically the birds will concentrate near the dam when the rest of the river is frozen up. And this is a good option because they can move a mere 15 to 30 miles, an easy flight, as opposed to having to fly down to southern Illinois to find food. So it makes their winter habitat a lot more flexible in cold periods as well as in warm periods when there's not so much ice on the river. So these mobile birds react to a very dynamic landscape. And I think what's important here is that that dynamic landscape influences you as an eagle watcher. Because if you want to come to the Sauk Prairie area and see eagles, it's important to know, are they going to be upriver or downriver? So part of our COVID response today is to see what are the areas, or where do you go if you want to come to our area and see eagles. We want you to do it safely, so in a COVID appropriate way, and that means coming individually and on your own time so that you can keep yourself safe, but also be able to see the wonderful areas that the Sauk Prairie region or the lower Wisconsin area has to offer you, and to see these magnificent eagles. So if we bring up, we'll show you, we've created a self-guided tour that you can go to the Ferry Bluff Eagle Council website, which is ferrybluffeaglecouncil.org. Here's an example of that website. So you can go to that website, and you can, of course, you can always donate to Ferry Bluff. We're a nonprofit organization and appreciate any donation that you can have. But you can also go to a self-guided eagle tours, which is that blue button on the bottom, and you can then bring up a self-guided tour app. And so in our next slide, that's the previous slide. But if we go to our next slide, I don't have control of that. These are the slides, the same that our sponsors are on. So we're just communicating with our crew here, and we're on the same page now. So you will come up with an app that will allow you, or a program that will allow you to find out where you can go to watch eagles. So this would be our upriver tour that you can see here, and it identifies places where you can go to see eagles. And so if the eagles are concentrated in an upriver area, these are the places that you're going to want to go to find eagles. But if the eagles are concentrated downriver, they're going to be distributed on the lower part of the river and from Prairie du Sac, or downstream from Prairie du Sac, and these are the locations that you would want to go to. Now, how do you decide between upriver and downriver? Depends upon our eagle counts, which we'll post on our website, and you can go to that website and find out where, if the eagles are predominantly upriver or downriver, or perhaps or even both. That will give you an idea of where we might go to find eagles. So that's a little bit of our eagle winter ecology, why they're here, hopefully why you're coming to see this wonderful resource while they're here, and how you might be able to do that in our COVID times where you need to take some extra precautions and be safe. I need to read my notes. I'd like to introduce our first primary speaker of the day, which would be Marge Gibson, and she's going to do an eagle release for us. And so with COVID, what we did is Marge released 2 bald eagles in the Sauk Prairie area a week ago, and we videoed that release, and we're going to present that to you now. And then afterwards, Marge is going to be available live, and you'll be able to ask questions of Marge. And if you can chat those questions to us, we'll pick up the questions. If you identify your first name and where you're from, we'll use that to introduce your question, and we'll present those to Marge, and Marge will be able to ask or answer them. And we hope that way that even though you can't be here present gathered in a large crowd for a release, we'll be able to still appreciate the work that Marge is doing, the wonder of being able to release these magnificent birds that were injured, to release them back into the wild, and we'll benefit from that. So before we do that, I also want to do one thing that's really important, which is bald eagles are a success story. They're a wildlife success story, being almost gone from the state of Wisconsin, and now there's almost 1,700 occupied nesting territories that exist in the state, from a low of about 108 30 years ago or 40 years ago. But that was possible in part because of donations that people have made to our Endangered Resources program with the Department of Natural Resources. And this spot will give you an idea of, if that interests you, how you might be able to help other endangered wildlife.
The eagle has landed. Get your one-of-a-kind Endangered Resources license plate today and help care for Wisconsin's wildlife and state natural areas.
Oh, Mama Colonel. Oh, so what's the story on this one?
He was hit by a car in September and had a broken wing.
Oh.
But he's doing super well now.
Oh, good. Oh,
he
Mama
also had
Colonel.
lead poisoning,
Oh,
so
okay.
his liver was a problem.
To the Great Spirit, to Mama Colonel. So, blessing to you, my friend. Blessing to you. Oh, Mama Colonel. Pray for her, protection for you, for all the things that you do, whatever law uphold for us. We honor you today. Thank you.
This is a male bald eagle, an adult, and they don't get their white head until they're between 5 and 7 years old. As our population has grown, they become, they can have a little longer childhood, and they don't necessarily get that white head for a little longer. But he is a full adult, and in September of this year, he was hit by a car in Medford, Wisconsin. He was a little slower than he should have been getting out of the way of the car because he also had lead poisoning. So when he came to us, we had to treat him for lead poisoning, and then he did have repair on his wing, and he is 100% ready to go now. He flies beautifully. He's been in our large conditioning barn for about 2 months now, and is really doing very, very well. He's really anxious to get home and to get back to his family. And so, yeah, he does have the light eyes of a full adult. They often have kind of a yellow eye or very light colored eye. But when they're still about 5 years old, especially our birds now that are coming up from this higher population center that we have, they're not needed in the breeding population so quickly. So they tend to have, they mature just a little slower. I have another bird that's with me today that has kind of dark eyes yet. And it's just that she hasn't been needed in the breeding population yet. So while she has the full white head and the full white tail, she's not yet 100% mature. And so, bald eagles have about 7,000 feathers, so people are always surprised at how much or how little they weigh. People think that, they're going to weigh, 50 pounds or something, but actually, as a male, this bird this morning weighed about 9 pounds, which is pretty typical for a male. And so, they have about a 6-foot wingspan. Yeah, I know. People are always surprised at how calm they are, and it's simply the way that we handle them. It's a lot of trust. They're not sedated in any way, of course. He had a little bit of breakfast this morning before he came, so I'm not going to feed him. Often I feed them before we release them, but as a full adult, there's a lot of food here. The dam keeps the water open, and it's really great fishing, and he's going to have a really good opportunity to have a lot of food and really a great prey base here. And so, yeah. People always want to know how old bald eagles live to be, and I have had ones that were banded in the wild that came into rehab that are in their 20s and even in their 30s. So they do live even in the wild. They have quite a long lifespan. I have one at home that actually is in her 50s now. She's from the Exxon Valdez oil spill. I worked that in 1989, and she's in her 50s, which she has a little arthritis, and if she were living in the wild, that probably wouldn't be, it wouldn't be possible for her to continue to catch prey and that sort of thing. But she's done really well in a captive situation where she's cared for. She's a large bird. She weighs 16 pounds. And again, he weighs 9. Alaskan eagles tend to be larger than ours here in the lower 48. You're looking pretty serious. What do you think? What do you think? There's your future. There it is. Yeah, you want to go fishing? Been a while since you've been fishing, buddy. Okay. Are we ready? Yep. Okay. So generally what we do is we do a count of 3. I hold him up so he's comfortable with where he's going. He's not just tossed out into the abyss. And this way he'll have a chance to get a good look at where he is. Good? You ready? Okay, let's do it. Okay. What do you think? Look. The world is your oyster, Angel. You watch out for cars, okay? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Take care, buddy. Often they come around, it's like they're saying goodbye. He's on a mission, he knows where he's going. Take care, man. There he is, he landed. Good job, buddy. It's always wonderful to see them fly on that broken wing. You know, we know what it looked like when he came in, and birds have hollow bones, so they heal pretty rapidly. He had 2 fractures, radius and ulna, and has done super well. But good to see him out in the wild again. I'll be back.
Oh, Mama Connor's Canesa. We're going to release this one here in the people's name for all the stuff that has happened in this year for us. We want to make sure that good things happen for this year for all our people. We pray for all the ones that have passed away from this COVID. And these eagles will take our prayers to the Creator for a good and happy year for all of us, so we can get along with peace, balance, and harmony. And so I'm asking for prayers for all of our relatives that have passed on with COVID. And a good year for all of us this year, that we can get back to normalcy. And our President and Vice President put a blessing upon them. They have a big job to do. And I pray for all the people who have died because of what happened this week. So we pray and take all of our prayers. Gizi, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the things that you do for us. Go and fly. Live a good life. Eat and eat well. And we pray, thank you.
We're starting to see that their eyes don't mature as quickly. They don't get as yellow as quickly. And so even though they're 5, and she's 5, she has the full adult plumage. She's at least 5, but the eyes are still dark. And we knew that from the time when they were in captivity. If you have a young eagle that's not releasable, they tend to keep dark eyes. Hi. In fact, that's one reason that we know about they're in captivity, and now we're seeing it in birds when our population's growing. They're just not called into the breeding cycle as quickly. All right, you good? This is a female. Her feet are bigger. People were mentioning that her feet are larger, and that's true. Females are about 1/3 bigger than males. She is not quite as big as most females would be. Her beak is not quite as long. In fact, this one is one I would do DNA blood work on to make sure if it was a female or male. By her halix and by her culmen, she, you're female, you're a girl, right? Okay. This is probably a female, but there's no outward signs that she's a female. And in birds, so we have to do DNA, we have to do blood work. And then the typical things that we do, the feet, measurements of the feet, the measurements of the beak. That's, I know, yes, and you're very beautiful, aren't you? Here, turn your head. The wing is a bit wider, a bit bigger, just because she's a bigger bird. You can see the molt pattern. We have a pair of eagles visiting here that are probably attracted to our releasing birds, and there may be a little bit of skirmish out there. That seemed to be, just from their flight, that seemed to be a pair, an actually mated pair and their vocalizations. So I want to wait just a minute before we release her until they can settle down. Yeah, see? Got to pay attention to that when you're out in the wild. they may not like you coming into their area. It's not a breeding time now. We shouldn't have territorial fights now as often because it's not breeding season yet. However, we're starting to see, again, as our population grows, population of bald eagles, we're starting to see more territorial disputes. And we're not 100% sure why that is. It could even be an environmental issue that we're not aware of yet. But it certainly is, has been interesting, and not necessarily in a, you know, in a good way. We start to see skirmishes between them. And this is an adult, at least she has the full adult head and tail. So we're going to be a little more aware of where we're putting her. What do you think? Does someone want to run down and see if they're in a tree down there or what? When you release a bird, it's always, you have a lot of responsibility, not only for their recovery from their problem that they had. She had lead poisoning also, and she's from Gleason, Wisconsin. She also was hit by a car, and it came to us in May of 2020. So she's ready to go, and now we just want to make sure that it's going to be a safe entry into her new environment, and probably it wouldn't be, you know, a real aggressive issue anyway. They might chase her, and those are things to think about. But the male is sitting in the tree here, and he's kind of just watching the whole thing. So I think he has sensed that there's some sort of, there could be some sort of danger for him.
Marge, how many eagles have you had at your facility so far this season?
We've done over 100, and it's been a really busy year. I think when people are out in the environment now because of COVID, they're, you know, people are not working, kids are home from school, that sort of thing, and so they tend to be, you know, out and about more. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's bad. We've had a lot of challenging issues with eagles also, and all birds. A lot of abuse situations, that sort of thing, which is really frustrating. You did not see them?
No, I thought maybe they had gone to the beach, but I didn't see them at all.
Okay, well that's good news. So when eagles are rehabilitated, as a rehabilitator, we're really responsible for every part of them. And that means getting them well exercised, and they're in our large conditioning flight. So they really are, in fact, it took us about an hour to get her down in the flight because they're very strong, very powerful. But the other part is that we have to make sure that their release is solid also. This is generally a really great place and really good time, especially time of the year. I love to release here because there's not a lot of bickering or a lot of territorial disputes or a lot of disputes in general. So this is a good time. But just to warn everybody, she may have some issues come up. She is wild. She knows, probably has some experience that way. So I think we will go ahead and release her.
Could you show us the wingspan again? Wingspan.
People always want to know why they're not biting, and why she's calm. Once they are comfortable with us and realize that they're not going to be hurt. Birds are really intelligent, and eagles, of course, are among, you know, very intelligent. She is an adult bird, but there goes the male, I think. Yeah. Are you ready to go?
We're going to do it.
Okay, we're going to release.
People's eagle.
Yes. Fly well, honey. So I guess it's right for her to be hassled a little bit, right? Because as we all are right now. As we all are, including our country.
Yes.
Yes. But you stand up firm, all right? You stand up firm, honey. Okay. Okay. So she has had a really good opportunity to recover from her lead poisoning. She was very thin coming in because of lead poisoning. She has been with us since May of 2020 and had a chance to build up her muscles again in the flight building. So she's ready to go now. You are, aren't you? Beautiful, yes, you're gorgeous. So anyway, she says she's ready to go, and we always listen to the eagles, right? Yes, okay. All right, you watch your head. Now, if they should happen to go into the water, eagles can swim. They would not have survived for a long time had they not. So they do swim. All right, you ready? Take care and don't eat anything with lead in it, please. Don't need to see you again, all right? You ready? You ready? You ready? Yeah. You take good care, all right? That's your future out there, sweetheart. There it is. There it is. Right? 1, 2, 3. Take care, girlie. They look a lot bigger when they get in the air, don't they? So it takes a lot of work in a rehabilitation facility to get them to that place where they're flying so powerfully and so perfectly. And it's always wonderful to watch them go and to be, you know, part of the wild again, where they belong. It's where she belongs and where he belongs.
Thank you, Marge.
Oh, you are most welcome.
And your team and your staff for all the things that you do for our wildlife.
They're amazing. They do much for me too. You know that, right? Oh. I always say they give back to me more than I could possibly give to them. I wish people could all know them like I do, you know? They're so amazing. Mm-hmm. Their spirits are just beautiful. Yeah. And all individuals, mm-hmm. Just like us. Yeah. Just like us. People always want to know how our program got started at Raptor Education Group up in Anigo. And it started, of course, with my interest in birds. And that started when I was little. In fact, birdie was my first word. So, you know, it's kind of apropos that I work with birds the rest of my life. But I was doing research on raptors in Southern California and realized that they needed a place to go when they were recovering from injuries and things. So when we moved back to Wisconsin, which is my home state, we developed a center, which is Raptor Education Group. And we take care of only birds, only native species, federally protected. And we do about 100 eagles a year, and sometimes more than that. This year has been sort of extraordinary in a number of ways. We have many more admissions than we've had in the past. And part of it, I think, is that people are home more and they're walking in the environment more. They're just kind of out and about and maybe notice things more. So that's I think part of the change. The other thing is that I think that they're getting bored, or maybe children are away from school and want things to do, and I think there's some pent-up anger too about not having the social aspects of our life, our natural life as we know it. So we see, unfortunately, a lot of problems interacting with wildlife. We see more shootings, for instance, which are illegal, and destructive, of course. And we see many more poisonings. People are, trying to keep their lawns, very beautiful, and so they're putting more pesticides out and herbicides and things. And I think there's just, there's so many ways that our behaviors conflict with wildlife and what's good for wildlife. And those come home to roost when we see them in our patients. So we see more poisonings, we see more shootings, we see more hit by cars, and it's been kind of a crazy year to try to figure out what is happening. But the good news is we're starting a brand new year here, and I'm really hopeful that through our education and through the education of the Natural Resources Foundation and the Wisconsin DNR, people are starting to appreciate perhaps the wildlife that's around us, and not try to interface with it in an unnatural way. And it's just a matter of appreciation. Raptor Education Group is a nonprofit 501c3. And we're funded totally by donations. We do not get state or federal funds, and it's up to the public to help us with our patients. So it's a little tippy this year because we aren't able to do as many educational programs that we are paid for, or that we send out to do our educator to do programs to schools and things. But we weren't able to do that this year. So it's been a rocky year for funds, and a heavy year for patients. So we're hoping that we can catch up in 2021. This is our 30th year that we've been in Anago. I've worked with eagles and with birds for over 50 years. So, it's gone fast. Let's say that. It's really gone quickly. But each and every bird is still incredibly awesome to me. I have never lost that, that sense of wonder about each and every one. People say that, oh, it must be getting, kind of average for you. Every patient's different, and there's nothing average about them. They're amazing. So I'm really lucky to do the work that I love and that suits me personally, and to be able to do it for my life work. So that's been a blessing for me. I think that one of the good things that's come out of the pandemic is that people do have more time at home, and just if they're not doing it on purpose, perhaps accidentally they're just noticing that there's more birds coming to their feeder, or if they're out for a walk, there's a pair of hawks that live in that tree, and they start to take an interest in them. And that has been a good thing, and I hope that continues over into the future. And it's, right now I'm not sure, if it's been a wash, or, if we have more negative problems caused by the pandemic. But when people are bored, they tend to either focus on doing something really good, educating themselves and being excited about something, or they're kind of angry. And I think it depends on, the individual as to how that tips out. I am optimistic about the future for birds in general. I think that there are signs of, certainly in my students, the interns and things like that, I see people who are really excited about research and about, educating, and that has been a really positive thing. It's always exciting to see, my students now become professors and, veterinarians and well-known researchers, which is really exciting for me. And to even have a little part of that, in their past has been a thrill. I think that the public is maybe in kind of a little selfish space right now. They're kind of worried about socially their issues and the negatives that occurred during the pandemic. But I'm hopeful that that's going to open up as appreciation for what we have around us becomes more evident to them. And I think when you're in the environment like this, and it's so beautiful, and you're privileged to see and interact with these amazing species, I think that that's a natural outcome of seeing it. So anyway, but I'm hopeful. I think that hope springs eternal, and it's out there for us. We have to protect it, but we do have a responsibility to do that, and hopefully that sense of responsibility will pick up on people, and that they will be able to rise to that occasion and realize that they are important to the future of these species. All they have to do is just be aware and to take responsibility for it. 1, 2, 3. Take care, buddy. That's your future out there, sweetheart. There it is. There it is. 1, 2, 3. Take care, girlie.
Well, welcome back. The comments that all of you have been making is pretty much what I've been seeing too, which is it's just a wonderful opportunity to see something that's just heart-lifting, especially in these COVID times. And all of you viewers are pretty impressive. You're ranging from California to New York and New Jersey and Canada and the US. So the reach is really quite broad. And so I'm very happy to reintroduce you to Marge Gibson. Many of you by your comments already know Marge, but Marge is the founder of Raptor Education Group Incorporated. And Marge, thank you very much for the release, a week ago, and thank you to the entire crew that made that possible. And thanks for joining us now here for some question and answers, and there's lots of questions.
Oh, great. That's good to hear. Watching the releases, and I was watching it myself, so I don't get to see it, I get to experience it, but it's always nice to be able to see them go and to know that people appreciate them and love them as much as I do.
Well, actually, let's maybe, before we get to the questions, could you follow up on that a little bit? Because, to see them go, it's wonderful for us. But how much effort do you really, and your crew, all of you really put into the care or leading up to that release, that moment that we see? How much time goes in before you get to there?
Well, each patient is different, and some require a lot of attention. Others don't have as long a rehabilitation period. So everyone is different. But basically, when they come in, we're tube feeding them most of the time if they have lead poisoning or if they've been in the wild for a long time with an injury. And with eagles and with a lot of the wild species, they're often debilitated for a period of time before people can capture them and before they come into us. So it takes a while for us to build up their body condition again and to even build up their weight for that period. And at first we have to tube feed them, which means give them liquid food, high energy food. But if they're starving or if they have certain situations like a toxin, they're not able to digest food. And that is, that's a problem for anything that we give them that would be meat oriented. So we use the liquid diet, which I've developed, and it works well. And then as their body starts to heal and as their digestive system starts to pick up, we're able to give them real food. And then finally, when they're able to eat whole food, which is what we feed them when they're out in the flights, fish or animal parts, rabbits, whatever, deer. We get a lot of deer that are hit by cars, and we're able to feed them to the birds after we x-ray them and make sure they don't have lead, of course. But I think that, it's everyone is an individual. So we do spend a lot of time with them when they're they're recovering and when they're in the middle of sort of critical periods. But once they go out into the flight, we don't touch them again. They're there for whatever period of time that they need. We do not release eagles, and I noticed this was a question as well. We do not release eagles during breeding season. In our area of Wisconsin, we have a strong eagle population, and many of the sites, some people feel it's almost a saturated population. So a lot of the eagle sites, nesting sites, are occupied, and there would be territorial disputes should we release them during that time, and we don't want to endanger them. So we do release them in the wintertime, which is they're in wintering areas. They don't have their territorial the hormones are down. In other words, they're not breeding, and they shouldn't be having territorial disputes, at least in most cases. So as long as they have a good population, a good prey base, we are very careful to select a really good breeding release site, which would be Sauk City is one of the best, and the one that I really prefer. So when the eagles go out into flight, they're there until we're ready for release, and that would be sometimes between December and March in most cases. Our young birds, we have a foster parent that raises chicks, and this is really important because we get chicks that come in from other parts of the state, and they fall from nests, and perhaps they're not able to be put back into nests, which is what we prefer. But if the nest is destroyed or something has happened to them, we are able to bring them to our facility and put them with an adult bird who actually acts as a parent. And so when our youngsters are grown, they go into the flight and work on their exercise and work on social graces. We have eagles. We do about 100 eagles a year. So at any given time, we have maybe 10 or 12 eagles in the flight. And they get to interact with all ages, other adults, the 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and they have to learn, I like to call it manners, of how they're supposed to behave once they're in the wild. And without that interaction and that natural learning that takes place, they are not going to be accepted well into the eagle population. And often, unfortunately, those that are released without that do not survive anyway. So we're very careful about that. I'm a real stickler when it comes to making sure that they are ready in every aspect, whether it be get their normal weight back, make sure they don't have any toxin left in them, x-ray them to make sure that there's nothing, untoward going on. And the youngsters are definitely with all age groups for several months. Usually they go into the flight in September. So when we release kids, we've not touched them from about September until their release date. And we are releasing a couple of youngsters this coming week. So as soon as the weather, is good there. And they've been with their foster parents and other age groups, and they're doing super well. So it depends. When a bird comes in, it's going to depend on how sick it is. It's going to depend on what its situation is. They come in for all different reasons, and we do spend time with them, but it's not like they become really certainly pets or anything. They're in the flight, and we do have to chase them down. To get them down. People always wonder, how do you get them down? Well, I always say that, our staff is in really good shape because, we're running back and forth with them. And that's true. They come down and, when they're ready, and it's really, they have to make a mistake in the big flight building because they're in the wild. Of course, they're soaring and they're using thermals, which don't exist in the flight. So, we wait till they make a mistake, pick them up, and then take them in and get them prepared to box them and take them back down.
Marge, Lynn asked a question, and I'm glad she did, or he did. I don't know actually the gender. But could you describe the flight? You've talked about the flight, and what is your flight building, and kind of how is that? Talk about how important that is.
The flight building is really vital. They are able to, it's a large building. We have in our specific circumstance, we have a large metal building that on the inside has the vertical upright timbers, so they can see where their parameter is and where the end of everything is. Birds, we never put birds, especially raptors, in wire, never wire. They can't see it. Their vision is such that they can see through it, and so it doesn't exist for them. So they hit it, they injure their eyes, they injure their beaks, they break off feathers, and all of those things are just super, super important to their survival in the wild. So we're extremely careful that they don't have any wire in their flight. And on our website, and actually on our Facebook, you'll be able to see, our structures, and they're all vertical wood of some sort, so they can see that easily and don't hit it. So that's how it's constructed, and ours here is constructed specifically for bald eagles. Bald eagles, if they can see out of their area, they tend to be a little more lazy than golden eagles. They don't fly. They sort of sit and look outside, and they're not exercising. And I always say they're not here for my entertainment. They're here to get better, and so they can go. So it looks a little dark on the inside. We do have upright vertical timbers, so about half of the building, and the other half, because we live in such a cold area, is covered, and they can take shelter if they need to. But it's designed with bald eagles in mind. I've worked with bald eagles for about 50 years, so in that time I've gotten to know them really well, and what they need in recovery, and what they need to survive. And that is, when they leave me, they are perfect in every way. Their weight is good. Their conditioning is perfect. They have developed all of their muscles, their flight muscles, which is their pectoralis muscles, and they're feather perfect. Eagles and birds are like airplanes, and if they are missing part of a wing, if you're in a plane and it's missing part of a wing, it's probably best not to fly in that plane. And they have to have those things to be able to turn, to be able to hunt, as well as they do. So in the building that we have, our flight building, there's nothing that they're going to hit that will injure their wings, injure their feathers, and it's 110 feet. So they're able to develop really good muscles, and they're fed at that point. They're also fed fish and deer and things like that they're going to be encountering in the wild. And of course, most of our birds are already in the wild. The only ones that aren't are the chicks that come in as little ones, but they they have to learn, and they have to also learn how to interact at a food site with other eagles, so they don't get in trouble there. And so everything is very important. Everything that we do has a reason, and we try to listen to the eagles. We give them what they need, not so much what is convenient for us.
Let's switch a little bit. Both of the eagles that you released were afflicted with lead poisoning. What can people do to reduce the exposure? Dawn was asking about this, and what can people do to reduce the exposure that eagles have to lead in their environment?
I think that there's a lot of things that people can do, and one of them would be to use non-lead ammunition. Is so important. We have some confusion sometimes, and unfortunately it's reached sort of a political issue and become kind of a gun rights issue, which it is definitely not. All of my patients, or many of my patients, are predators, and they hunt. It's what they do. But using copper, a pure copper bullet, Copper is a harder metal, and it doesn't fragment when it goes through an animal. It's also more humane in that way because it doesn't fragment, and there's much less crippling of deer and whatever animal that you're hunting. So I think that, you know, to have a safe harvest for your family and for wildlife too, use a full copper bullet. They're not as easy to come by as I wish they were. But they can be had. Barnes makes a good one. Hornaday makes a good one. And in that way, you're not leaving a lot of lead in the gut piles that, or in discarded parts of an animal, or in an animal that has gotten away, that didn't die right away and perhaps, you know, will die later. These are things that eagles and other predators find. And when they eat that, they're eating little bits of fragmented lead, and it's cumulative. Lead is stored in the bone. It is the only way that we can access it is through their blood. So we do blood lead tests, we do chelation therapy, we do injections. It's very expensive. For us, it can cost up to $2,000 a bird to chelate them. We do not get state or federal funds. So it is all on a private, nonprofit and donations. But it's important. I think it's important to, because it's a human caused thing, I think it's important for us to do that and to be able to get them back out there in the wild until humans can get smarter about things and realize that their behavior and their action has a direct effect on wildlife. And whether it's loons or whether it's trumpeter swans or whether it's bald eagles, lead poisoning is serious, or whether it's your own family. And it causes everything from increased aggression, low IQ, learning disabilities. I mean, all kinds of things like that, and liver failure. When we get our birds in, they're in. Most of them are, their livers have started to shut down already by the time you can approach a wild eagle, and people bring it to us. They're in multi-organ failure, and we have to reverse that. So it is quite a process, and it is something that we take very seriously, and it is expensive, but that's, it's part of what we do, and there's no way to get around that. But people change to non-lead, change to lead-free sinkers and jigs that you use for fishing. We see so many loons and trumpeter swans with lead poisoning as well. So it's an easy fix. Just change your habits a little more expensive, yes, but maybe $1, per 20 bullets more expensive, not hugely expensive. But for us, versus $1, I'll pay a lot of dollars for, so I don't have to chelate an eagle and spend $1,000 and then get him back on his wing.
Jan was interested in that detoxification process. Can you just explain chelation a little bit more, and how many times do you have to do that for an individual bird?
Sure. It is the same product that's used for humans when they develop lead poisoning. And lead poisoning used to be a big problem in our country. It is still in some parts of the country, like Flint, Michigan. But it's lead paint. Our paint used to have lead in it. And I remember as a young mom, I was thinking of painting my baby's little toy box. And this was in 1974. And it was when lead was just being taken out of paint in our own society. So the paint companies were saying at that point in time that they were all going to be going out of business because they would have to retool all their companies and that sort of thing. And I specifically, as I say, I was a young mom at the time, and I heard that the paint wasn't stay on on whatever you put it on without lead in it. So, I was talking to my husband about that, and I was very concerned because, you don't want paint to come off of your baby's crib and things. And of course, it turned out that wasn't true. It was simply a thing that they were saying so they didn't have to retool their companies or to change. And change is hard. But we now don't have lead paint, so we don't have as much lead poisoning in our own society, in our own population. It does still, however, exist with old buildings and that sort of thing. But it's the same product that's used for children or for adults when they get lead poisoning. So it is a injection. It's calcium EDTA, and we have to, it's very caustic to the skin and to tissue, so we do have to dilute it, you know, up to 3 times with sterile saline, and then we give it twice a day into their muscles, and we rotate muscles so we don't have tissue death in those areas. It's not an easy process for the bird or for us, and then we give it 4 days, and we wait for 4 days. During that period of time, as I say, the only way we can access it or to chelate it is when it's in the bloodstream. But lead is stored in the bone. So it will be out of the blood in the 4 days, or most of it. So it will go back through the bones, and as blood circulates, pick up the lead and then again be available in the bloodstream. So we do the chelation process sometimes 3 or 4 times, and sometimes more than that. It really depends on how badly the bird has been lead poisoned and how long it's gone on in some cases. Sometimes we have chronic lead poisoning, and other times it's acute. If it's acute, sometimes we find the bird has had a huge dinner with, you know, of some like a gut pile that has been taken out, and there's a lot of lead in it, and they can't taste it and they can't feel it and they're not seeing it. Eagles are not delicate eaters, shall we say. And so if they fill their crop with this toxic material, they can actually develop symptoms if it's a lot on site, and you know, be found, you know, convulsing and that sort of thing, and people find them and don't know what the problem is. And you know, we when they bring them, of course, we do our lead test right away, and are able to start chelating them at that time. It's very frustrating because it is something that's solvable, and we just have to become you know, better stewards and more responsible. I get a little frustrated, quite frankly, when, you know, we spend a lot of money and I see a lot of suffering of our amazing birds, not only bald eagles, swans, loons, all different types of birds. And then I hear someone say, well, I would switch to copper, but it's more expensive. Okay, you know, $1 a bullet, you know, I'm just saying that, you know, maybe you should kind of enlarge your sense of priorities a little bit. That isn't much when you're looking at what we have to do and what the suffering that the birds go through. And let me just add that the birds that we see are often full adults. These are not birds that would have succumbed to, you know, as they say, nature takes the weak ones. These are not weak birds. These are birds that were meant to survive. These are breeders. These are doing what they're supposed to do. They're finding carcasses, and eagles do eat from a lot of carcasses. People think they only fish, and that is not true. In fact, when I was doing my field work as a biologist, we used to call them white-headed vultures because, you know, they kind of acted like vultures, and you know, they're out scavenging, and they do eat carrion. So they're just doing what they're supposed to do. It's not that they're weak or they're choosing, you know, poor, inappropriate prey. And they're poisoned, and it's really our fault for being poor stewards. There's things available now. We just have to become smarter about it and more responsible.
So you know, for all of people who are listening to this and asking the obvious question, what can we do? You know, it's the obvious is to, if you hunt or fish, use non-lead products. And if you don't do either of those activities, talk to people who do and encourage them to do the same. Because if we all act on that, it's a relatively straightforward solution, even though socially it's a more difficult solution to convince people. So I think that's thank you for what you
If
do.
you talk to me about socially difficult, I will, I mean, that, as I say, from the disturbing scenes that I see every single day in my clinic, and we do over 1,000 birds a year here every year, and 100 of which are bald eagles, and of course many trumpeter swans, loons, a lot of loons that are lead poisoned. I think if people saw it, if they were with me in the clinic, they would understand. Encourage people that in a polite way. I have to be a little careful because after all these years, I'm not as polite as I used to be. I'm impatient for people to get the idea.
That impatience is well earned. Let's switch topics a little bit. There's lots of other questions, and Jennifer and Julie were both kind of asking questions that relate to simply, what do the birds do after you release them? What do you know about that?
Well, unfortunately, I wish we could ban them. We can't. We have. I wish our state would support banning them, but we need to start doing that again. And I hope that we can at some point, because there's a lot of really good information that we're not getting. They don't have telemetry. Telemetry is very expensive, and as I say, we're a nonprofit. We can't afford, the $5,000 or $10,000 per telemetry unit, and then to collect the data that we would need to do that. And I wish we could, but we do see that most of the birds that when we were banding did very well. They go back to their territories, and that's a very good thing. If they're adults, we release them not next to their territory, because often they're with us for 6 months, 8 months, that sort of thing, and by that time their mate, and they do mate for an extended period of time, if not for life, maybe has selected a new mate. And we don't want to take them home and, as I say, throw them into the bedroom when they could see a truck in the driveway and maybe choose not to go there, because there is going to be a fight, and we don't want to do that. So you have to really know the natural history of the species that you're rehabilitating, because every aspect of what we do is important. Not only taking care of them, feeding them when they're in captivity, but also preparing them for release and releasing them appropriately in the appropriate site, and that's really important.
Some related issues is, you were talking about you like releasing in the Sauk Prairie area because there aren't so many nesting territories that are located nearby. But that story's changing, isn't it? In terms of the overall population of eagles in the state. And we've had a couple questions about that. Justin was interested in how many eagles are in Wisconsin, and how does that relate to how you approach your releases?
It's changed a lot. I think that we're very aware, and maintain a close feel about what the local population is doing. I don't release other parts of the year. In fact, that's people are always concerned about having their eagle come back to their site, and birds migrate. Many birds migrate, but eagles certainly know where they're from. And if I release them in Sauk and they want to go home, they're home. In fact, I have kind of a quick story about that. Several years ago, we did release birds with telemetry on them, and one bird the next morning, it was the first time I'd used the satellite packs, and the next morning it showed that he was above near Chicago. And of course I thought, well, it wasn't, the transponder wasn't working well or whatever, because that seemed crazy to me. I mean, why would he be in Chicago when I released him in Sauk? And then the next day he was in Madison, and we started to think that, and then the other telemetry was working fine. So it just was the bird's movement, and they do move. I mean, they're very capable of going several hundred miles without, pretty much taking a breath. The next day he was in Iowa, on a little island in the Mississippi. And then he hung out for about 2 weeks. And then he went straight up to Winnipeg and spent a couple weeks there. He had developed West Nile virus, and this was back in 2004, I think 2005. And he was found in Stevens Point. And after a couple of weeks in Winnipeg, he went right back to Stevens Point and he hung out there and had a good time for a while. Then he went back up to Winnipeg. Apparently there was some lovely Canadian eagle that he was interested in. And he was a 4-year-old at that time. So he spent we had him telemetry unit for 2 years. It was actually a little longer than 2 years. And he spent a lot of time in Winnipeg. I don't know why, but he definitely had GPS, and it was working well. So he knew where he wanted to go. So when people, say to me, oh, this eagle came from 3 blocks from where I picked him up, and you need to release him here. We need to release him where it's safe and where he can come back. And if he wants to, and if it's safe for him and he wants to, he will, definitely will. If it's not safe and maybe he was poisoned there or something, he knows better than me. They know that. And I will let them make that choice rather than make it for them.
I learned a lot when we were comparing your released eagles with radio transmitters attached to them and versus wild birds that we caught in the Sauk Prairie area during winter. It was fascinating that the eagles that you released, they left the area just a few days after being released. But the birds that we captured who had chosen on their own to be here, they stayed, for weeks. And it's interesting that the eagles really are choosing where they want to be, and if we release them in that area, they still might be fine, but they don't necessarily want to be there. And so it's both indicates how strong your eagles are, as well as this idea that eagles know where they are and they know where they want to be and they will go there. It's just a fascinating sort of comparison between the two situations.
Right, and as I remember, our people always want to know that if they're raised in captivity with our foster parents, how do they survive? But I think you can answer that better than I can. It was your work, anyway. But they do very well. Our birds, when they leave here, are ready to be in the wild, and they have everything that they need to do that, including having experienced their social behavior, which is so important in all species, but eagles in particular.
Let's part of your release, a lot of people were impressed with just watching you handle the bird, and several, including Pat, they were saying, how is that bird so calm? How do you do what you do?
Yeah, I don't know. It's something that I've worked with them for a very long time, and from the beginning, when I was doing research in Alaska with the eagles from the Exxon Valdez spill, and that's been 30 some years ago, 1989. I learned how to comfort them. First of all, when you're working with them, you want to make sure that they're not uncomfortable, that they're not fighting you, that they're not, stressed in any way. So, I would just use my voice and touch, and they really calm down very, very quickly. They really need to know that you're not going to hurt them. And I think that, that message gets through quickly. I don't use big gloves because, frankly, I can't feel them. I can't feel their muscles, and they can't feel me. I try to go into a place of like, what do they need to survive? What's important to them? Not what's important to me, but what's important to them. And they're very tactile. They when they fish and they hunt, they grab their prey, and they make sure that that it's gone before, of course, they start eating it, and they can feel that their muscles are very sensitive, as are their nerves and their feet and so on. So I touch them, and they can feel me, and it's a situation of trust. And I've never been, I've handled thousands of eagles, and frankly, I've never been injured. So, got all my fingers, toes, and stuff like that. So I think it works. It works. It works for me. Now, other people, maybe not so much. I can't answer that. But I do know that when they're getting ready to go, they know it. And they are, I don't ever put them in a situation of danger. They also trust that. I also am very careful when I'm walking around, the circle in typical eagle release days, to tell people not to reach out and touch them, because they trust me, but I can't, I can't be sure that, that they would trust almost anybody that would come up. And in fact, we do a lot of, I have to tell you, my interns, we choose interns pretty carefully here, and we get some great young people that go on to be amazing. But people can fool me, but I will tell you, you can't fool them. You cannot fool them. And if the bird reacts inappropriately or aggressively, and you've done things to try to calm them down, and to to make them comfortable and make them know that they're not going to be injured, then there's something that they're picking up with that person. My birds pick my interns in the end. If we get an intern that the birds don't like, don't respond well to, are afraid of, I have to listen to them, not to myself. I can be fooled, but you can't fool them. So that intern has to hit the road.
Well, I would hate to be subject to that kind of evaluation, but fortunately I'm
Yeah,
down here.
well.
Tracy had an interesting question. She was thinking more specifically about what the birds do just after you release them, and she was wondering if they ever fly back over you or other things that they do, and that's always been a fun experience. And can you share with some of those experiences?
Sometimes they do. Often we get ones that circle back maybe once or twice and then take off straight out to wherever they're going. But the male that we released this time went in and sat in a tree behind us, which is unusual, a little unusual. And I think that he saw the pair that was there, and decided to observe them from a more safe distance that wasn't on the river. And that was a very wise choice for him. When the female was released, she just flew and flew and flew and flew and went out of the area, which also, wise choice. She can come back, but she was well aware that there were other eagles in the area. So I think it depends on the situation, depends on the year, but usually they just want to go. Often the one thing that we can't provide in our care is a open body of water for them to bathe in. During most parts of the year they have big swimming pools and that sort of thing, but in the winter we can't keep it open. So the one thing a lot of them do is they fly down and they start to take a bath almost immediately when they're released. They go to the other side of the river, they get in the water, and they're bathing. It's like below zero, and there they are, bathing. So it just depends on the bird. They're all different, and they just want to go. They're delighted with the situation that they're that they're leaving, and that they're free again, and the rest of it is up to them.
This is a fun question. Patty from Manchester, New Hampshire, she had a question of how do you recruit volunteers for care of raptors? And I'm wondering how she from New Hampshire might be able to come out and help you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, the truth, we live in a remote area of Wisconsin, and we do not have many volunteers at our facility. I wish we did, but we're in kind of a low socioeconomic area, and we honestly don't have a lot of volunteers. Most of our volunteers are transporters and people who help us, in recovery, that sort of thing. But we would certainly love that, and especially during baby season, feeding our baby passerines and, doing all kinds of things, it would be really excellent. We don't have a lot of housing around, unfortunately, and so that's part of a limiting factor. But there are lots and lots of things to do. So if she's interested, she should, write us and let us know what she'd like to do, and we would be, we can certainly try to, make a good fit.
Chloe was very interested in the aerial courtship behaviors that bald eagles exhibit. And can you describe that a little bit? That's probably one of the most fascinating things about these birds, and they have a lot of things that are pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, they are, their courtship flight is every year they strengthen their pair bonds, even though that they're, they keep the same mate. And I always, say I think that's something that would be nice for humans to do too. But anyway, so they do courtship, which is nice. They start with vocalizations. With bald eagles, nesting is involved. They bring in new nest material. Often the male will hand the female a stick, kind of like, a fella gives a lady a rose. And they start working on the nest and getting it just so. And she's usually the one who makes selections there, which is kind of apropos. But anyway. But when the courtship actually starts, they do the flight, and they turn upside down and they present talons. A male presenting talons to his female means that he's going to be a good provider. His feet are, intact, and everything's working on them. So, everything in their life has a meaning, and the courtship certainly does, because he's proving to himself that not only is he really good in flight, he's turning upside down and doing aerial things, so he's going to be very good at hunting. And his feet, really important. These feet are going to bring home the bacon when she's sitting on the eggs and for their chicks. So they do join talons often, and they tumble. Not all pairs do. Everyone's a little bit different, but it's a pretty beautiful sight when they're in courtship, and it's pretty loud sometimes too. So but again, every pair is different, and some are more quiet than others.
So when do you see that courtship during the year?
Well, now it's getting earlier. With climate change, we're starting to have a little bit different climate up here in northern Wisconsin anyway. So we're starting to see, the eagles come back in February, which is unusual. I'd like to think March would be, the best time for them to start. But they're sometimes even working on nests, in early February. And but as they change, we have to kind of keep up with that and include that in their natural history, because it is it's part of who they are. And of course, we have to change our information by watching them and getting information from them. So February in many cases. If it's an established nest, an older pair that's been there before, they could even stay for the winter. It just depends if there's a food source, and if they they have a real comfort in their area, and there's no stressors, there's not people walking around, and there's not people, a lot of recreation, for instance. A lot of recreation does dissuade them. They tend to be sort of private birds, and if there's a lot of snowmobiles, for instance, a lot of noise and that sort of thing, some will continue to nest, but it can dissuade them from from that activity and people shooting guns. I mean, that's a danger to them. They know that, but the sound alone, is jarring for them. So it depends. When people are running dogs, for instance, if someone moves into a cabin where there's an eagle's nest and they have, large dogs, it depends on how well behaved the dogs are. They can get used to it, but there are all kinds of things that are important in their environment that are important if you have to think about it for their chicks. What's going to be important for when they have a family? And all those things are going to be dangerous to chicks. So they're thinking about the family, much as we do, think about our children, our family, what's safe. And so, what's safe. And sometimes they can start early and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they're dissuaded pretty early.
So just for some of our listeners who might not know Midwestern geography, you're in Anago, which is about 4 hours drive north of here, which is Sauk Prairie, Wisconsin.
3.5, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and so we're near Madison, Wisconsin. So, and just to give you an idea, if your birds are getting on eggs in March, the birds that nest here in the Sauk Prairie area are we have eggs as early as late February, so almost, a whole month earlier in that 4-hour drive. So there's a lot of variability in that system. Joe was interested in how you get funded, and I think that's really important because all the work that we're trying to do is really based on primarily the kindness of other people. And do you want to talk a little bit about how you try to keep the birds fed and presumably you fed, and your interns fed, and how you can make this venture continue?
Well, we're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3, so donations are fully deductible by tax laws. And we couldn't survive without that, for instance. It would be impossible. Our costs are high. Medication, for instance, we pay the same price that you would pay for, medication, whether it's antibiotics or whatever. It's the same medication. And so it is pricey, and it is a problem. But I think that I am still a volunteer. I'm still I'm not paid, so I can have staff because this is so much a part of my heart and soul that it's it is what I do, and I I need to. I want to be here for the birds, so we make a lot of adjustments, and that's one of them. But we do need staff because we have so many, and we don't have volunteers, so that's part of the issue. But donations, yes, we do get some grants, not a lot, but we do get some, and I wish people always think that we're state or federally funded because our birds are all federally protected, but that's not true. And I think at some point it might come to that. I hope it does. We take care of an awful lot of birds that actually help bolster our economy. Here in the Midwest, people like to come and see wildlife, and they like to come and listen to loons, for instance. And I know that's true in in the East Coast as well, and in a lot of areas. So, well, a lot of we have to adjust our thinking to say that we bring in a lot of revenue also to the Northwoods, just because we do a lot of teaching, we do a lot of education for the public, and people then respond to that and come. So I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I hope at some point we get federal funding, but at this point we don't, and we don't get state funding either. But we certainly appreciate people who want to honor us with bequests, or or in other ways to help support our organization and our work. We've been here now 30 years this year, and I've worked with birds many more years than that. I had a facility in Southern California. My husband was from Southern California, so we lived there first. and then moved back to Antigo. But this is where so many endangered species are. We do everything from little warblers to other things like that live in the North Woods. And in some situations, they only breed in the North Woods, Upper Michigan, and northern Minnesota, some of these warblers and things. So we're close here. We can take care of them. We can raise youngsters for them without imprinting. But and it's because of our location. I mean, we would make a lot more money if we were in a large population center, but we're not. And this is where the patients are. So it really is important that we're here.
And do you want to, presumably people can donate to you by going to your website? Do you want to, this would be
Absolutely.
a good time?
And our Facebook, we have a very active Facebook page. We do a lot of education through Facebook and share a lot of photos with the public that, that they can enjoy and actually see our work. So, but it's raptoreducationgroup.org. And we have a website that you can donate through, or send checks, donations to us. It's N2160 West Rollwood Road, or Post Office Box 481, Antigo, Wisconsin. And we would be extremely grateful, and that really is how we support our work. Yes.
And if people want to visit REGI, can they do that?
Well, we don't have visiting times now because of COVID. We're more restrictive. But in the summer, we have tours. We have tours 2 days a week, and sometimes on Saturday as well, one Saturday a week. We do have to have reservations because our facility was actually developed to be a wildlife rehabilitation facility. And due to federal regulations, the public can't interact with birds that are here for rehab unless they're, a volunteer, a legitimate volunteer. So we have to, to stay within our federal guidelines, we have to have the education team, in another area, or the birds are on the fences, for instance, and not connected with our rehab. But the educator, that means the educator has to be here, and we have a wonderful educator. And our interns, we do have some interns that also are here for environmental education. So it's separate. In other words, if you just show up, you're going to see the rehab facility, and that's not allowed by federal law. So we have to make sure that the educator is here, and that's why we have the reservations, and that's why we don't have just flat open hours for people to come. It's not a zoo. And it's not a nature center per se. So a wildlife rehabilitation center is a little bit different.
Well, thank you, Marge. We are running towards the end of our time, and so I'm a little nervous about taking on a question now. But is there anything that you would want to, kind of mention now that we haven't covered that you think would be important in about a minute?
I think people are so important to us. They're important to our patients. We rely on the public an awful lot to help us catch birds that are injured. We service a huge area. In fact, we get birds, some of the endangered birds from Minnesota, Michigan, all over the Midwest. But we can't be there to capture them and to bring them in. So we do rely on the public to do that for us, or to help us with that. And it's frustrating. People think that, it's your job, you need to get out here and do it. But if it's a 3-hour drive one way, and then, capture something that may not be capturable, it's simply not possible. I wish it was. So we rely on the public. And if people want to become transporters, or they want to become, learn how to capture, and to be part of our bald eagle capture team, for instance, or that sort of thing, please call. Please call and specify that that's what you would like to do. And we can do training here, which we do a lot of training for tribal wardens, for law enforcement officers on handling and that sort of thing. So we can do that. We count on the public. We appreciate the public, and you're the lifeblood of what we are and the work that we do. So we very much appreciate everything that you do for us, and we hope that it's returned in. You can see our birds are healthy and well, and getting them back out there is why we do this work, and it's what we want to do. I feel that when patients are injured by human cause situation, we had this morning several patients that were shot again and illegally, but that's a human situation, and you know it's not nature taking care of itself, for instance. And we hear that term so often, and you'll see my hackles go up every time, because that does happen in nature. Nature does tend to exclude things that are not well or not right or deformed or something. However, what we see, 98% of what we see are human caused. We see shootings, poisonings, hit by cars, power lines, you know, a lot of things, but they're human caused. So I truly feel in my soul that it's a human responsibility to make that right. And, you know, that's kind of where we're at with that. So help us, you know, help us do the right thing, and make sure that, you know, your cat's indoors, for instance, and that your children don't, you know, disturb nests because they want to see, or you know, want to take out a baby bird and that sort of thing and play with it. That happens, and it's you know, it's frustrating to us. But anyway, so thank you. We really, really, really appreciate you, and we are very frugal with our finances, and you know, do the very best for our patients.
Well, thank you, Marge. You know, I'm sure the questions could keep coming, and but fortunately, we'll be able to do this again, I hope, and
Sure.
very much appreciate what you do and your participation with us and sharing it with us today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So what we'll do next is we'd like to, you know, Marge was talking about, much of what Marge does is science, and it's great techniques, and but there's also a degree of non-science in there, of spirituality almost. And one of the things that I think is important, and it's difficult for me to think about this because I am a scientist by training, and it's hard for me to appreciate that social and spiritual and non-science sorts of background. But it is important, and you saw some of that with Marge's release, you felt some of that with Marge's release. And one of the great teachers that I have had is traditions from Native American perspectives on life, because ceremony and acknowledging and addressing the spiritual component of the wild world that is around us is a very integral part of that. And so our next presentation, after a short commercial to sponsor the Department of Natural Resources Endangered Resources Fund, will be Art and Dawn Shigoni. And they're going to talk about eagles in the lives of Native American tradition and the importance that they play and why. And I hope that spiritual aspect of eagles and eagle days is something that we can take from that.
Thanks to your donations, bald eagles are back in Wisconsin, but there's still many species in need. Donate to the Endangered Resources Fund on your Wisconsin income tax form, and your gift amount will be doubled. Together we saved bald eagles. Now let's bring back the rest.
Welcome. Oh, I'm so happy that my husband and I, Art Shigoni, and I'm Dawn, are here again for the Eagle Watch season that's happening this year because of doing things just a little bit differently. So today we're going to be having, again, showing our film, which is the 1854 Orientation by Chief Seattle, which is just a wonderful piece of history, and also the Eagle Huntress film that is just wonderful, showing the absolute beauty of the golden eagle. Welcome and...
Good afternoon. My name is Art Chigoni. I'm a member of the Menominee and Potawatomi Nations of Wisconsin, and welcome to my country, and enjoy the film.
How can you buy the sky? How can you own the rain and the wind? My mother told me, every part of this earth is sacred to our people. Every pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every meadow and humming insect are all holy in the memory of our people. My father said to me, I know the sap that courses through the trees, as I know the blood that flows in my veins. We are part of the earth, and it is part of us. The perfumed flowers are our sisters. The bear, the deer, the great eagle, these are our brothers. The voice of my ancestors said to me, the shining water that moves in the streams and rivers is not simply water, but the blood of your grandfather's grandfather. Each ghostly reflection in the clear waters of the lakes tells us memories in the life of our people. The waters murmur in the voice of your great-great-grandmother. The rivers are our brothers. They quench our thirst. You must give to the rivers the kindness you would give to any brother. The voice of my grandfather said to me, the air is precious. It shares its spirits with all the life it supports. The wind that gave me my first breath also received my last sigh. Will there be any spirit of my people left? My ancestors said to me, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. The voice of my grandmother said to me, teach your children what you have been taught. What befalls the earth befalls all the sons and daughters of the earth. Hear my voice and the voice of my ancestors. The destiny of your people is a mystery to us. When the view of the ripe hills is blotted by talking wires, where will the thicket be? Gone? Where will the eagle be? Gone. This we know. All things are connected like the blood that unites us. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. If we sell you our land, care for it as we have cared for it. Hold in your mind the memory of the land as it is when you receive it. Preserve the land in the air and the rivers of your children's children, and love it as we have loved it.
For over 1,000 years, the nomads of the Altai Mountains have hunted with golden eagles, a precious skill that has traditionally been handed down from father to son. But now a young girl is setting out to become a master eagle hunter. Meet Ashulpan. She's 13 years old. She's strong. She's brave. And she's a total natural. But when the competition ends, the real test begins.
Bonjour, my name is Art Chigoni. I'm a member of the Menominee and Potawatomi Nations. My Indian name is Kanesa. And today we're here at Eagle Watch Days, and it's going for several days. And we're very honored to be here. And what I'm holding in my hand is a golden eagle fan. And Native American people, we're the only ones that are allowed to possess and carry eagle feathers. But people often ask me, how do you get your eagles? And we have to, we do not shoot or kill eagles. We get the eagles through the DNR. There's a method of how we get them. And people often think that we shoot or kill eagles, which is not true. And that's a myth. And what happens sometimes is because the eagles are so big and huge, and they're scavengers. They're just like any other bird. They will pick carcasses, like a deer carcass off the side of the road, and the eagle will be on top of it, eating and pecking away. And sometimes what happens is the eagle tries to pick up part of the meat or even the fish going hunting because they pick that fish or part of that deer up, and they can't carry it because, and then as they're in flight, they can't pick it up. And so going across the road, oftentimes that's how they get hit or killed on the road. Or sometimes they fly into the guide wires because they weren't there before. They don't know about the guide wires because they're so in nature. They're flying all over in the trees and stuff, so they're not aware of all these power wires and stuff. So they can't see that, and so oftentimes they'll hit those power wires and hurt and injure their wings or get killed that way. And so sometimes the ones that do survive, what happens is they capture them and they take them to a sanctuary here in Wisconsin. We have a sanctuary up north, and a woman takes care of them with a team, and they rehabilitate the eagle, and then that's when they come down to Sauk City and different areas to release the eagles. And it's a very humbling and very, for myself, a very spiritual thing that to watch that, to bless them, to watch them, to as they have been rehabilitated, to take off and go fly back into nature. And it's for myself, it's a very humbling experience to watch these magnificent birds and stuff. And one of the things I wanted to also add is that veterans get eagle feathers from their nation or their tribe, and that's one of the highest honors that that a Native American person can receive from their nation or from a person. And so we cherish these eagle feathers, and we have to have a permit to carry these eagle feathers from the DNR and stuff like that. So a lot of times when you see a lot of Native American people at powwows, you're thinking, how are they getting all these eagle feathers? Well, they have a permit that they get, and they don't kill them, but they have a eagle suppository that they have all these feathers at, and we have to order them through application, and it takes anywhere from a year to 4 years to get a bald eagle or a golden eagle. It takes a lot longer time to get that. So anyways, also I talk about this medicine wheel. It's a metaphor that we use. All the colors here, the yellow, the black, the white, and the red, as people that we live on this Mother Earth together, and on this Mother Earth, and so that we get along, and there's no dissension between any of us, and so it's just a representation of us getting along and being peace, balance, and harmony on this medicine wheel. And many Native Americans will have the medicine wheel in different colors or different north, south, east, and west, whatever direction that they're from, as a representation.
The Ashbing Abamazing means a new people will emerge. And it means that when the water turns to poison and you can no longer eat the fish, a new people will emerge, and to try to come together, as Art mentioned with that medicine wheel, that we all have to come together in order to protect our earth, as you saw the importance of that in the film by Chief Seattle. Also, for the eagle and Native culture, Art, you might want to share what the eagle means to Native peoples.
And one of the things too is that we as Native American believe is that we have all these items here, the shaker, the eagle feather, the sweetgrass, the sage, and the cedar, and the tobacco. As Native American people, when we pray outside with a fire, or we have a pipe, pawagan, and that smoke, as we pray with that tobacco in the fire, and that fire, the smoke goes up into the heavens, up in the Ishpeming. The eagle flies around with they gather that smoke upon their wings, and they fly. If you've ever watched an eagle fly, they go in a circle, a clockwise circle, and as they're going around and around, you can watch that bird go as high as it can until it disappears. And so we believe that when we're praying and those eagles see that, they gather that smoke upon their wings, and they take it up into Ishpaming, up into the heavens, and touch the Creator's face with our prayers. And that's why we believe that we have a direct connection to Mama Konano, or the Great Spirit, or God, as we would say. It said that when our elders tell us that when we see an eagle flying around, that we are to put tobacco on the ground and to pray at that time, because the eagle will carry those prayers up to Ishpaming. And so, and we have good feelings when we see those eagles fly around like that, that those are our messengers to the Creator. And a lot of times too, that tobacco derives from Mother Earth, and so we use that tobacco in a very sacred manner. And we used to get it in big leaves, and it said that that special tobacco that we get, we carry that tobacco for 1 year. And for 1 year, if we can use that tobacco and prayers and stuff like that, we use it at a home, at my house too. So anytime that people need prayers, I'll take that tobacco out by a sacred tree, and I'll pray for other people that have problems or whatever they need at that time. And that's what kind of what we're told to do and how we're taught. And I enjoy talking and telling people about the way things are done as a Native American person, because people think, well, how do you live as a city Indian, you know? And so we still carry these traditions, even on, we're not even on the reservation. We're taught these things anyways, just like people are taught their ways in church and stuff. So we practice these sacred traditions. So all these things that we use, and we still use these things today in our pipes. And one of the stereotypes that's often used is people ask me, so what do you Indian people smoke in those pipes? You know, and I said, well, they think that we use some other stuff in there, but we don't. It's always herbs and tobacco. That's all that's ever been used in the pipes. There's no pot or anything else that goes into those. It's very spiritual stuff that we do with those pipes and stuff. There's never ever been any other drugs or anything in those pipes, because that's not what's not to be used for that. So it's a myth that people often say, so I want to break that myth.
He was talking about the pipe. When the pipe had tobacco in the pipe, and the tobacco is sacred because it comes from the earth. And when the tobacco was put in the peace pipes that we talk about, the tobacco wasn't necessarily to be inhaled. It was to produce that smoke from the pipe that then carries those prayers in that peace pipe circle, that those prayers are then carried to the eagle, and the eagle carries those prayers to the Creator.
We're very honored to have these eagle feathers and carry them with great honor. And in actuality, when you go to a powwow, you see the eagle staffs that the veterans carry, and those eagle staffs are representing, we have 11 different tribes, so each tribe or each nation has their own eagle staff that they carry into the powwow for their veterans. It's a very high honor that they have to carry. And a lot of those veterans have been, combat veterans have been shot and wounded, and they come back and they tell a story. And so at a powwow, what happens if there's an eagle feather that drops on the ground, we believe that that is a fallen warrior or a veteran. So 4 combat veterans, male or female, have to go out. One veteran has to go pick that feather up, and there's a certain dance or certain ceremony that's done at that time. And then they ask at the powwow at that time when that feather drops that there's no cameras to be turned on. They turn all the cameras off, and we only see that presentation done with your eyes and not the cameras. And so out of respect for that fallen warrior, and so one veteran will pick that up, and then there's a special song that is sung for that eagle feather, and for that veteran that picks that up. And then at that time when that feather is picked up, the veteran that picks it up, he or she has the opportunity to talk about their life in the being in the combat, war in the combat, how they got shot or what happened to them. And that was one of the things that our elders always told us, that we were to make sure that we didn't drop our eagle feathers on the ground. We didn't want to have those elders or those veterans talk about what happened to them in the war or what happened to them. And so, but it happens sometimes at the powwows that eagle feather does drop. And so a certain ceremony has to be done for that, you know. And so it's a good thing to learn. It's a good thing to know about, you know, because how valuable our veterans are today, and why we have such a high respect for them as on the reservations. And when a veteran comes home, the nation or the tribe will give them an eagle feather, and a certain ceremony will be done for them to bring them back home and to say thank you for your service in the war, for fighting for our country. And we've had probably more men and women, Native Americans, in service than any other nation that fought for this country and died. And so that's why it's very, when you come to see the eagle watching days, it's very special. There's a lot more into it than just watching the eagle and how those feathers are taken care of. And we're I'm very grateful to Marge and her family and friends that take care of these eagles and bring them back healthy and stuff, so that we can watch them fly around. And you know, it's a blessing for us. And thank you to the Eagle Watching Days for coming to here.
Yes, thank you. I just share a little information on the history of Art's life and service to the community, and some of the things that he has done that we highlight here on the board, which is the fact that Art performed. He's a traditional dancer, and he performed at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at a big week-long event that honored Johnny Cash, and the song that he danced to, of the song of Johnny Cash, was called Ira Hayes. Ira Hayes was one of the soldiers that in Hiroshima, when you see that picture where they're putting the American flag into the ground, there's about 5 men in that picture, and Ira Hayes is one of those. He was a Pima Indian, and so Art at this event for honoring Johnny Cash, he picked up the American flag and did an honor two-step that they do at powwows across the stage with the American flag, with his traditional regalia, which is in this exhibit. And there was probably about 2,000 people in the audience, and it was just pretty amazing. They just kind of held their breath when they saw somebody in full regalia carrying that American flag to that song, well-known song by Johnny Cash. And yeah, Bill Miller is a Native American 3-time Grammy Award winner, so he also did the song of Ira Hayes. Bill Miller is like Art's brother. He today is very close to John Carter Cash, Johnny Cash's son, and so that's how it came about. It was a huge honor for Art to be able, in all his years of doing traditional dance, not only with Call for Peace around the world, but also for many conferences and colleges, that he was honored to be able to do this dance at that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's a highlight in his life, The other thing that I have on the board that shows actually Johnny Cash went to Wounded Knee back in 1967, I think, to meet some of the relatives that had ancestors in Wounded Knee. I don't know if people realize that Johnny Cash had acknowledged what had happened at Wounded Knee. The other thing that we share in the exhibit is what we call a reparative history. And so we've highlighted that in the exhibit in Ireland in 1847, during the potato famine, the Choctaw Indians sent to the Irish to help feed people in terms of what was happening during the potato famine. In Ireland, they did a sculpture called Sacred Feathers, and it's in the exhibit, and it's feathers that are shaped like in a bowl that they erected in, I think it was 2017. And it's a beautiful sculpture and the Choctaw came to visit at that time. So the sculpture is also in this exhibit that they did to honor Native peoples for helping them during that potato famine. At the same time, it wasn't until the trial of Standing Bear that Native American people were actually considered human beings. So here back in 1847, Native Americans were doing humanitarian efforts to people in another country. And then the other piece that we try to highlight in this is the fact that the Honduras Congress finally acknowledged the contributions by the Iroquois Confederacy. They finally acknowledged their contribution to the writing of our Constitution. So those are just a few of the highlights.
Very much for Art and Dawn for sharing the perspectives for Native American cultures on eagles and with us. You know, one of the lessons that I take from what they are presenting and what you've seen throughout today is that you can't remove people from the wild environment in which we live, as well as many, many other species. It's just not possible to separate them. They are us and we are they. And the tradition of the eagle carrying our prayers to Ishpeming, to heaven, is not unique to Native Americans in the United States. In Vietnam, a place that I worked for a very long time, the eastern saris crane carries the soul of the virtuous to heaven. And coming back in our European part of our American traditions, Leopold says that when we hear his call, referring to the sandhill crane, we hear no mere bird. We hear the song in the orchestra of evolution. So these birds, they reach us deeply, and it is important that we reach out to help them to survive. But if we only do that one species at a time, we will fail. There are many, many, many species imperiled that need help, and they need that help at the same time. And so I'm really very pleased that David Stokes is willing to join us, because he has this really hard task of going from a charismatic species like the eagle to dealing with all the other species that we have and that we share this world with. But he is taking on that challenge with some humor, as well as lots of good information. And I'm very thankful that David is with us today. And as important, after David's presentation, we'll also go to some question and answers so that you'll be able to ask questions directly. David's live here in the studio with us, and you'll be able to ask him or address questions to him as well. So without further ado, David, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Jeb. Hi, everybody. Everybody say good day, friends. Please make 2 hooks like this. This means friend in sign language. I like to use sign. It tells me if you're paying attention. Everybody say good day, friends. Yeah, I'm going to remove my mask now because here in the auditorium, we are socially distanced. Everybody's about 10 feet away, and there's only a few of us here. I want you to be able to hear me really well and to see my lips move. Yeah, so everybody say good day, friends. My name is David, and sometimes they call me a bald eagle. Yeah, if you don't have a hat like this, you got to make a bald eagle like this. Everybody make a bald eagle. Now make the sign for a hawk. Wait a minute. Are hawks and eagles the same? Repeat after me. Repeat after me. Say what I say. Say what I say. I promise to write a letter to the sign language experts and tell them that hawks and eagles are not the same. The sign should not be the same. Forget about that. Everybody make an eagle sign. Yeah, if you don't have a hat like this, you got to make a bald eagle like this. Now, why do they call me a bald eagle? Yeah. Everybody say, 'cause you're bald. Yeah. Are bald eagles really bald? Nope. Everybody say nope. What color's an eagle's head? Everybody say white. Pick some lint off. You go like this, say white. How old does an eagle have to be to have a white head? Everybody say 5. I have some friends. Everybody make some friends. I have some friends in Minnesota. Point to Minnesota. Whatever direction that. Point to Minnesota. Yeah. My friends in Minnesota who work with eagles say anywhere from 3 to 7 years of age is when eagles get their white heads. Everybody say, 5 is right in the middle. Yeah. So if you see, everybody say see, an eagle flying around where you live and it has a white head, chances are it's 5 years old. Raise your hand if you're 5 years old. Raise your hand if you're not 5 years old. Yeah, forget about that. But I want to read you a riddle. Actually, I want to give you some advice. Advice from an animal. This is advice from an animal written by a friend of mine, Elon Shamir, in yourtruenature.com. Yourtruenature.com. Figure that one out. Raise your hand if you think you know what animal I'm talking about. Wait, let's make the sign for animal. Everybody make the sign for animal. It goes like this. Ready? When I do this, some of my friends go like this. What's that supposed to be? Everybody say, chicken dance. Make a bird. Make a bird. Question, did you ever eat a bird? Yeah. Chicken is a bird. Everybody make a bird. Did you ever eat a dead bird? Everybody say, chicken nuggets taste great. Yeah. We eat birds. Birds are very, very important. A bird is a type of an animal. Make the sign for animal. This advice comes from an animal. Let's see if you can guess who it is. All right? Cherish freedom. Honor the earth and sky. See the big picture. Let your spirit soar. Fly high. Bald is beautiful. Yeah. Everybody say, bald eagle. Yeah, it's a bald eagle story. Advice from a bald eagle. I happen to bring along a bald eagle here today. Everybody say, that's not real. Yeah, I know. It's a toy eagle, but I think it's a girl. You know why? Because she's bigger. In the eagle world, the girls are bigger than the boys. Yeah, and the biggest eagles weigh, you ready for this? About 10 to 14 pounds. The biggest ones, the girls, 10. A big one would be 14 pounds. The males, the boys, are about 7 pounds. They are not very big. I have here's the boy right here. Everybody say, he's not that tiny. Oh, listen to this. Raise your hand if you can hear this. Everybody try that. If you hear that sound, you should look up because the chances are it's a bald eagle close by. Now this toy, I had to paint the beak. I got to repaint it. And I forgot the feet. Yeah, because they have yellow feet and a yellow beak and a white head. Now, who knows what's an eagle's favorite food? Everybody say, fish! Yeah. Everybody say, that's not real! Yeah. I know it's not real because it doesn't stink. How many of you think fish stink? Yeah, my dad didn't like fish. Anytime that we had fish, it was usually fish sticks, which are, not sure that's real fish. Never mind. Sorry, Mom. But guess what? Fish are very important as food for eagles. And I also, wait a minute. Another kind of fish. All right, let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Oh, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. And I think my friend Jeb said by the end of February, eagles might be nesting and the eggs might, it's an egg. Wait, look. Oh. Everybody say, looks like a chicken. Yeah, get back in there. Get back in there. I don't want to go in there. Just stay in there for a minute. Yeah, eagles are one of my favorite. And I want to tell you this. We're going to talk today about eagles and who lives around the eagles. Animals who live with eagles. Now, one of my favorite things to tell you is this. I got a special hat. It's not new. It's my loon hat. Can you tell? Is this an adult bird like a female loon or maybe the male loon? Does anybody see the baby on the back? Yeah. Sometimes when you're in Wisconsin and especially the lakes in the northern part of the state, you might hear this. If you hear a loon calling in the middle of the day, look up, because chances are there's an eagle flying overhead. Eagles and loons don't mix real well. Sometimes a baby eagle might be eaten, might be preyed upon by an eagle. Now I'm going to tell you this. If an eagle eats a loon, it's not mean, it is just hungry. I'm not mean, I'm just hungry. Hungry as can be. That loon looks cute to you, but it looks like food to me, and so I'm going to catch him. Eat him if I can. If you've ever been hungry, maybe you can understand why the eagle is a predator and the loon is the prey. The eagle just wants to catch that loon, the loon just wants to get away. Thank you to my friend Billy B Productions, for writing that great song, I'm Just Hungry. He was thinking about a duck and a fish, but whatever. If you hear this sound from the loon tune, chances are, look up in the summer. There might be an eagle flying overhead. Now, I want to talk about some important animals that feed eagles. I was told in college, I won't mention where I went to school. Some of you might know. Yeah. In college, I was told, if you want to understand the owl, everybody make an owl. Wait a minute. Having owl's eyes is like having a toilet paper tube stuck to your eyeballs. Yeah. If you had eyes like this, if you wanted to look up, you'd have to turn your head up. If you want to look down, you have to turn your head down. Owls have the ultimate tunnel vision. Let's try this. Just practice this. Everybody, hang on to your beard. I mean your chin. Hang on to your chin. Now, don't move your head. Look at the ceiling. Look at the floor. Look to the left, look to the right. Everybody look at my eyeballs. Pretty cool, huh? You and I can wiggle our eyes. Owls cannot. People think. Everybody say think. Dream. Believe. Learn. Let's try it. Everybody say think. Think. Why would an owl want eyeballs that are stuck? Scientists think, everybody go like this, say science. This means science in sign language. Now make 2 B's, ready? Biology. 2 C's, chemistry. 2 P's, physics. Now make rock and roll. Now look like your grandpa though. I used to say your dad, but it's your grandpa now, forget about that. Owls, scientists think owls have stuck eyeballs because wherever they look, they are listening in the same direction. A friend of mine, I just happened to bring along an owl here today. Yeah. Everybody say, that's not real. Yeah. It's a toy owl. I think it's a girl. You know why? She's bigger. Wait, I got the boy right here. Here's the boy right here. Yeah. Everybody say, that's not real. Now, a friend of mine told me an owl can turn its head all the way around once. Because if it did, it would break its neck. Underneath all that skin, that feathers and muscles, everybody feel your neck. We have bones underneath our neck, our neck muscles. They're called vertebrae. Let's practice language. Everyone say cervical vertebrae. Everybody say vertebrae. You and I, as mammals, everybody make a mammal. Got to have 2 hands, but I got one busy right here. All mammals have 7 neck vertebrae. Yeah, people have 7 neck vertebrae. The tiniest shrew has 7 neck bones. The tallest giraffe has 7 neck bones. Owls have 14. Ducks and geese have 15. Swans have 22. Yeah, pretty amazing thing. And owls are one of my favorite. What's an owl's favorite food? Everybody say, mice! Yeah. This is a gingerbread mouse. Now get back in there. I don't want to Just stay in there for a minute. So, yeah, a friend of mine said if you want to understand the owl, you have to interview the mouse. Whoops. Yeah. Don't let the mouse go in the auditorium. Everybody say, stay. Yeah. Let me know if it gets off my head, all right? Mice, everybody make a mouse. Mice are important food for owls. I love mice. I'm not going to eat a mouse, but I would if I had to. There was a movie one time where a guy ate a mouse. Never mind. I ate lima beans once, but that was a different story. Yeah. If you want to understand the owl, you have to interview the mouse. Now, before we get back to the eagle, let me ask you this. Everybody say, these are not ears. That's not a question, actually. Everybody say, these are not ears. These are feathers. They're not ears. Some people call them ear tufts. Better to call them feather tufts. They stick up here, and we're not exactly sure why. Owls don't talk to us. We make a guess about animals. We call that guess science. We think the owl has, great horned owls have feathers that stick up like this to break up their outline so they are easier to camouflage. The barred owl, woo, 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 woo. The barred owl doesn't have feather tufts like this on top. Now, watch me trace the owl's ears. You ready? Watch it again. I'm going to trace the owl's ears. Owl's ears face forward like a satellite dish, right on the side of their face. Wherever the owl looks, they are listening in the same direction. Scientists think that the owl has stuck eyeballs because wherever they look, they are listening in the same direction. Now, we talked about eagles. If you want to understand the eagle, you have to interview the fish. So I brought some fish with me here today. Everybody say, hello, fish. Yeah, these are my friends. These are suckers. These are, shiners. These are shiners. Yeah, and they're pretty good size. And they're still alive. You know why they're still alive? I had them in cold water. Cold water holds more. Make two O's. Make two O's. Bring them together. Oh, two. Try it again. Ready? Oh, two. Cold water holds more oxygen. The magic of water. Make a W. Everybody say water. The magic of water is that as it gets colder, when it reaches 32, it freezes, and then it floats. Yeah, the colder the water gets, it gets to freezing, and then it floats. And so water underneath the frozen, like the bottom of a lake, might be 39 degrees Fahrenheit, which gives us about the best oxygen possible. Fish are active in the winter, by the way. They're active underneath the ice. When people go ice fishing, they're not going to catch dead fish. They're going to drink beer. I mean, they're going to catch fish that are still alive. And these shiners might be great food for an eagle. Yeah, I'm going to, oh, baby. Yeah. Oh, no animal. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Hey, pretty slippery. Slippery as a fish. Check out this fish. Oh, yeah. Oh, and do you know that fish have waterproof eyeballs? They have waterproof eyeballs. Yeah, I do that too. Fish are important for food for eagles. But guess what? I have a friend that I haven't met yet. He's kind of a friend on, I guess, on email. Yeah, you can call him a friend. His name is Dan Goltz. He works for the Wisconsin DNR. He sent me a couple pictures. I want you to see this. Pictures. He climbs trees. Everybody make a tree. Big tree, little tree, dead tree. Eagles build their nests in trees. He climbs trees to examine what eagles like to eat and maybe even to band the eagles. Put a band. This is a picture he took of something he saw in an eagle's nest. I don't know if you can see this. Does anybody see a jaw? Does anybody see some teeth? Show me your teeth. Now, I thought maybe this was a raccoon skull, but my friend Jeb, guess what? He's a scientist. He said, looks more like an opossum. Go like this. I don't know the sign for opossum, but I might use this. You know why? Opossums have a thumb on their back foot. Opossums have a thumb on their back foot. Yeah, and they drag their tail usually. And many opossums, 60, 70 years ago, there weren't any opossums in Wisconsin. 60 or 70 years, no opossums. They moved from south to north because they're not picky eaters. Raise your hand if you're a picky eater. Yeah. Opossums will eat just about anything. And along the highways, from north to south, there's a lot of garbage along the highways. Opossums are smart, relatively speaking. That is, they're survivors. They're not endangered. Opossums will eat what's left over. Did you ever have a quarter pounder and there's some cheese that kind of leaked out on the package. How many of you actually lick that cheese? Yeah, some of us do, but a lot of people just throw it away. And then that piece, that litter on the ground, opossums find that food to eat. So this might be an opossum with some fish. And there's something else. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, somebody else was found in an eagle nest. Everybody say turtle shell. Everybody make a turtle. Put the shell on. Take the shell off. Ouch! You can't take the shell off. Make a turtle. Put the shell on. Take the shell off. Ouch! Everybody say, stop it. Make a turtle. Put the shell on. Only on television does the turtle jump out of its shell, take a bath, and get back in. The turtle shell is the turtle's back. Everybody say, prove it! All right, I'm going to prove it. I happen to have along here a turtle shell from a common snapping turtle. This one, I'm going to guess, was about 50 years old. You know how I know? I'm going to show you a 32-year-old in a couple minutes. I don't know if you remember, but Art, when he did a blessing for the eagle, when Marge released the eagle, he had a snapping turtle shell where he had some sage burning inside. Yeah, and he was using a turtle shell. This is the turtle's back. Check out the backbone. Yeah, the turtle shell is the turtle's back. Turtle shells have been found in eagle nests. Turtle shells like maybe from a painted turtle, like this one. This one's been bleached, so you could touch it. If you ever see me sometime, we might get a chance to touch these things. This also can be binoculars if you're in Star Wars. You can see the backbone inside. Turtle shells have been found in eagle nests. Do turtles climb trees? Everybody say, in your dreams. In your dreams, lots of things can happen. But if you see a turtle climbing a tree, get a picture, get a video, make sure you have the data. Never mind. Let me show you a turtle I have here today. This is a 3-year-old common snapping turtle. How do I know it's 3 years old? I've had it for 3 years. Everybody say, drip dry, drip dry, drip dry. Everybody say, bite me! Bite me! Okay, it's not biting me. Maybe everybody say, not yet. Why doesn't it bite me? I don't know, but I want you to believe your eyes. Believe what you see. This is a common snapping turtle. It has a super long tail like a dinosaur. It has long toenails like your mom. It has a tiny shell on the bottom. Let's practice language. Everyone say carapace. Everybody say carapace. Everybody say plastron. The plastron. Now, if this turtle was 5 or 6 years old, if you look at its plastron, if it's flat, it's a girl. If it has a dent, it's a boy. The plastron, the belly of a snapping turtle and a box turtle. If the belly is flat, it's a girl. If it's dented, it's a boy. That's if they're at least 5 or 6 years old. Now, this turtle can do a magic trick. Let's see if I can show you the magic trick. It's pretty amazing. These turtles don't like to be on their backs. Check it out. Did you see that? Did you see that? Everybody say, roll over, Beethoven. I said that once, roll over, Beethoven. And a kid said, they don't know music. I'm not going to tell you what school I was at in Milwaukee, but, you know, it's a pretty amazing thing. These turtles use their head to flip over. It could bite me. I'm going to tell you this. If you pick up a snapping turtle outside in nature, chances are it will bite you. Yeah. Everybody smile. Everybody say, I could bite you. I'm not going to bite you, but I could bite you. Yeah. Turtles can bite. They bite when they eat. Yeah. Turtles bite when they eat. You know what? So do people. I want you to meet an 8-year-old. How do I know it's an 8-year-old? I've had it for 8 years. This one, is this a snapping turtle? Is this a snapping turtle? Everybody say, drip dry, drip dry. Yeah. Everybody say, bite me. This one had its mouth open just a second ago. It's a painted turtle. Everybody say, hello, painted turtle. This painted turtle has long toenails in the front. I think that means it's a boy. When you think about mud turtles like painted turtles, look at their toenails to know if it's a boy or a girl. Long toenails in the front is a boy. Long toenails in the back is a girl. It's a guess. If they lay eggs, it's a girl. Okay. No. Yeah. So why would the girl want long toenails in the back? Everybody say, think. Long toenails in the back help you dig a hole to lay your eggs. Why does the boy have long toenails in the front? Everybody say, to hang on to the girl. If you don't know what this means, talk to your parents later. Yeah, everybody say, bye-bye, painted turtle. Now I want you to meet a snapping turtle And this one's 32 years old. How do I know it's 32 years old? I've had it for 32 years. I went to the Valley Fish Market. The Valley Fish Market in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. Yeah, by the Mississippi River, make 2 R's. Yeah, about close to a place where the Wisconsin River runs into the Mississippi River. Make a river, yeah. I went to the Valley Fish Market, and I asked, I don't know if it was Mike Valley, but I thought it was the Valley because of but it was, his name was, never mind. Anyhow, I said, do you have any snapping turtles? He said, yeah, I got one yesterday. He said, I asked him, how big is it? He said, 20 pounds. So in a book, everybody make a book. In a book, it says wild snapping turtles grow 1 pound a year. So a 20-pound snapping turtle would be 20 years old. Yeah, and I've had this for 12 years longer than that. That would be 20 plus 32 years old. I'm going to bring this one out. By the way, I don't say bite me to this one, because it would bite. Yeah, yeah. This is a common snapping turtle. It lives, oh, you would turn around, wouldn't you? And this, everybody say, drip dry, drip dry, drip dry. Yeah. We're waiting for the drips to come off. Yeah, everybody say, tiny belly. This is a common snapping turtle with webbed feet. Snapping turtles can be a problem for eagles. If a young eagle or an eagle gets in the water somehow, snapping turtles might prey upon them. Not because they're mean, because they're hungry. Check out this face and look at that neck. Snapping turtles are one of my favorite. Snapping turtles and other turtles can be food for eagles. Everybody say, bye-bye, snapping turtle. Now, I touched the snapping turtle, so what do I have to do? Everybody say, baby wipes. Yeah. I have to wash my hands off with baby wipes. Now, a lot of you don't like baby wipes, but when you were a baby, you liked it when your mom wiped your bleep. I didn't say it. Yeah, I'm going to wash my hands for 30 seconds after this with soap, all right? I want you to meet a different animal, and this animal is doesn't live in the water. Let's see. Oh, everybody say tortuga. You got to move your lips when you do it. Ready? Tortuga. Yeah, tortuga means turtle in Spanish. Everybody say chiripaja. Try this without moving your lips. Ready? Never mind. Everybody say chiripaja. Chiripaja is Russian for turtle. Yeah, everybody say żółw. That's Polish. Everybody say guai guai. Guai guai. That's Cantonese. Everybody say wu gui. Yeah, how do you say turtle in English? Turtle. This turtle is a box turtle. I'm going to bring it out. It was hit by a car in Missouri, and that's why I have it. Everybody say, cheeseburger! I brought this out one time, and the kid said, looks like a cheeseburger. And I said, where's the cheese? Yeah. I'm going to give it a bath. Don't look. She's taking a bath. Don't look. Stop looking. Now, this turtle, if you notice, doesn't have a very big tail. Turtles who live in the water usually have a long tail. Now, don't mention the soft-shelled turtle. The spiny and the smooth soft-shelled turtle have tiny tails. Never mind, forget about them. Most turtles that have long tails live in the water. Turtles live on the land don't need the tail to be very long. And this one has a flat plastron, a flat belly, and she's wearing a turtleneck. This is a female three-toed box turtle because she has 3 toes. Now, I want you to meet another turtle. This one came from, well, see if you can guess. It's a Russian tortoise. Yeah. Came from Russia. Yeah, turtles like this. Everybody say, baby wipes. I got to get out another baby wipe. Here we go. I'm going to wipe this one off. These baby wipes are just, well, here we go. And this turtle loves to eat green leaf lettuce from Aldi. Yeah. Turtles like this are one of my favorite. Turtles can be food for eagles and other creatures. Now, something else I want you to think about. Something else that was found in an eagle nest. You're not going to believe this, but I'm not going to lie to you today. All right? I don't know if anybody knows who this is. Everybody make a deer. Moose! Yeah, sorry. Everybody make a deer. Ready? Moose! Wait a minute. Everybody make a deer. Yeah, did you fall off the cliff? Yeah. Deer. Deer are one of my favorite. In Wisconsin, there are more deer now than there's ever been. Yeah, there are more deer now than there's ever been because in long ago, before your grandparents were born, in the olden days, when bald meant white, bald eagle, bald-faced hornet, in the olden days, there were so many trees, there weren't as many deer. When loggers cut down the trees, new trees came up, and that was good for deer. There are more deer now than there's ever been. This is my deer. Do deer climb trees? If you see one climb a tree, get a picture. Make sure you date it. But guess what was found in an eagle nest? Everybody say, a deer foot. This is not a leg. This is a foot. Here's the heel. Here's the ball of the foot. The deer walks on the middle toenails. Let's try something. Stick out your hand like this and cut off your thumb. Don't cut off your thumb. Just pretend you don't have one. The deer doesn't have a thumb. Now take your pointer finger, put that over the top of your thumb and hold it there. Now put your pinky finger over the top of your thumb and hold it there. Make sure you got 2 fingers sticking out in the middle, not 1, 2. I don't see any similarity, Mr. Stokes. These 2 correspond to the hoofs. These 2 show up in the track. These 2 are the dew claws. We don't see those very often in a track unless there's deep snow, deep mud, or some people say a large animal. Now, Obi-Wan Kenobi said to Luke Skywalker, the sand people walk in a single file in order to. Some people say the sand people walk in a single file in order to hide their numbers. Deer walk in a single file. You know why? Because they have stinky feet. Who doesn't, right? Everybody try this. Who can do this? Separate your fingers like this. Right between those hoofs on the deer, there's a scent gland called the interdigital gland. Every step they leave a scent, and they follow their family member's scent. They walk in a single file, and many times they register. That means their front foot hits the ground, and the hind foot on the same side lands in the same spot. That's when they're just kind of walking around, not running. When they're running, new things change. Deer are one of my favorite. And deer, here is a fur coat from a deer a friend of mine sent to me from New York State. He hunted this, he harvested, he killed this deer for food, and then he gave it to me. Pretty nice, huh? It's a fall coat. If you notice, it's not really red-brown. Yeah, and the inside of fur, by the way, is leather. A 6-year-old said, how'd they stick the fur to the leather? I said, good question. But if you got leather on your shoes or your belt or your motorcycle jacket, chances are it came from a cow. And that makes sense. If you use a cow to make steak and hamburger, you should use the skin for clothing. It's multiple use. Deer fur is such good insulation. A lot of times makes them snow. Everybody makes snow. When snow falls on the back of a deer, it doesn't melt. Did you ever go outside and it's snowing like today? It was snowing earlier when we were watching eagles on the river. We could have done this. If all the snowflakes were candy bars and milkshakes, oh, what a snow it would be. We'd stand outside with our mouths open wide. You ready? If all the snowflakes were Care bars and soy shakes, oh, what a snow it would be. That was the lactose intolerant. Sorry, Wisconsin Dairy State, forget about that. But you know what? When snow falls on the back of a deer, it doesn't usually melt because deer fur is such good insulation. Now, did you ever see a place where a deer laid down? I call it a deer boat. It's probably incorrect. A deer bed, a place where a deer laid down. It might melt the snow because its body heat might compress, and yeah. And you can look for it to see if a deer laid there. Look for tracks, look for scat, and look for hairs. Hey, by the way, what's on your pillow in the morning besides a drool spot? Everybody say hair. Yeah. Look for the hair. And deer have more hairs per square inch on their skin in the summer than they do in the winter. Wait a minute. Deer have more hairs per square inch, more hairs per square inch in the summer rather than the winter. Why would they want more hair in the summer? Yeah. How would you like to have a foot like this and try to swat mosquitoes? How did he die? I don't know. So in the wintertime, those hairs are hollow, like polar bear fur. They create something called dead air space. Everybody say, dead air space. Yeah. Deer are one of my favorite, and you might find evidence of deer in eagle nests because eagles, everybody make an eagle, are opportunists. If they find a dead deer on the road, they're going to eat it. Now, I was told by my friends in Minnesota that sometimes eagles get hit by cars because, well, think about this. Raise your hand if you know who this bird is. Oh, 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 oh. Everybody say crow. Everybody feel your head. Regardless of what your brother and sister say, you have a huge brain. Yeah. Crows have huge brains. They're one of the smartest birds around. Some people said maybe it's a gull. In northern Wisconsin, it's probably the raven. It doesn't matter. crows, blackbirds are very smart. I have never, I almost lied to you. Yeah, sorry about that. Last year I did see a road-killed crow, but most of the time, the American crow, the common crow, doesn't get hit by a car because they're smart. They see that car coming and they get out of the way. Eagles are smart too, but guess what? I was told by my friends in Minnesota that if an eagle is sitting on a road-killed deer and something approaches, something kicks in the eagle saying, "This is my food, protect the food." And oftentimes they get hit by a car because they're not afraid so much as they're protecting their food source. What I was told, I used to do this, and I try not to do it anymore. Like if you're eating an apple, throw it out your window because it's going to decompose. The problem with throwing the apple out the window, mice might come to eat that apple on the side of the road, and then who comes in? Owls, hawks, eagles, other animals to eat what the mice are coming. And so it's better, don't put your apple core on the side of the road. Yeah, I want you to meet a couple other animals who might be in the habitats of eagles. Now, let's see here. We might have seen a fox. A fox might get preyed upon by an eagle. Excuse me, everybody say, "That's not real." This is my toy fox. I know it's a red fox because it has a white tip on its tail. Red foxes have a white tip on their tail. Everybody make an R. Make your hand look like mine. Say red. Now make an F. Make your hand look like mine. Say fox. Ready? Red. Fox. Red fox is one of their favorite foods. Mice! Everybody say, "That's not real." Yeah, mice are very, very important. Get back in there. I don't want to go in there. Foxes and coyotes live in the same habitats as eagles, and they love to eat mice. Mice, I love mice. I don't eat mice. I would if I had to. But mice are food for many creatures. Now, I want to share with you a song, probably one of the most important animals in nature. And it happens to be, wait, is this on? Yeah. Everybody say, "It's not a guitar." Whoa, ho, ho, put the perch upon it. Wait a minute, this is not a perch. What kind of fish is this supposed to be? Everybody say, "A walleye." Everybody say, "It's a toy." Yeah, it's supposed to be a walleye fish. Whoa, ho, ho, put the fish upon the tray. Whoa, ho, ho, feed your friends a fish fillet. Whoa, ho, ho, satisfied till Saturday fry. Fish fry. Everybody say, "Thank you, Ken Longquist." Ken Longquist. Kenland.com, yeah, for that great song. Fish are really important food. Now, if you like eagles, you got to appreciate fish. What do big fish eat? Everybody say, smaller fish. What do smaller fish eat? Everybody say, smaller fish. What do smaller fish eat? Smaller fish. What do really small fish eat? Everybody say, really small fish. Now, what do really, really small fish eat? Everybody say, plankton. Everybody say, SpongeBob. Yeah. This is Sheldon from SpongeBob. Excuse me, I have to talk to this plankton. Stop looking at me like that. Did you know? Everybody say no. This means no, you can't have a cookie. Everybody say no. This means I scoop up something, put it in my, everybody say no. Did you know that outside in the water, outside in the river and the lakes, there are small creatures called plankton. Plankton comes from the Greek word planktos, which means made to wander. Yeah, plankton lives out there, and this one's called the cyclops. Plankton is food for small fish. Small fish eat it, big fish eat smaller fish, and on up the food chain to eagles. Yeah, now, wait a minute. Do you see what I see? Everybody say a blue jay. Does anybody see a kind of a, this is a snorkel. A snorkel. Question, why is there a snorkel in my fish bag? Why is there a snorkel in my fish bag? Because I put it there. Yeah, and some big fish might eat a snorkeler. I don't know, sharks. They found a lot of weird things in sharks. There's an animal I've already mentioned who has a snorkel attached to its abdomen. Remember this song goes like this? Ready? Head. Let's try it together. Ready? Head, thorax, abdomen, abdomen. Head, thorax, abdomen, abdomen, 6 legs, 2 antennae, and usually some wings. What about the compound eyes? Compound eyes. Isn't that how it goes? When my daughter was in first grade, she hated this song. Everybody feel your head. Head. Is your head warm? Everybody say warm blood. Yeah, warm blood. Everybody put your hand on your heart and say blood. Everybody say, I love blood. I don't want to see blood, but I love blood. Everybody feel your head. Yeah. Now say thorax. Everybody say thorax. You have to move your lips when you say it. Ready? Thorax. Thorax is where the legs attach and the wings. Now, everybody grab your equator. Everybody say abdomen. Let's try it together. Ready? Head, thorax, abdomen, abdomen. Head, thorax, abdomen, abdomen, 6 legs, 2 antennae, and usually some wings. What about the compound eyes? Compound eyes. Question, what animal did we just describe? Yeah, everybody say insect. Put your thumb on your nose, 2 antennae. Ready? Thumb on your nose, 2 antennae. This is insect in sign language. Who thinks they know the most important food for little fish in fresh water in Wisconsin? The most important food for little fish in freshwater Wisconsin is a plankton. Which plankton? Everybody say, mosquito! Everybody say, that's not real. Is this a boy or a girl mosquito? Everybody say, it's a toy. It's supposed to be a girl. If this was the male, if this was the boy, the girl's 10 times bigger. You know, a lot of, I'd probably eat them, never mind. Mosquitoes, everybody make the sign for mosquito. The sign for mosquito, yeah. Mosquitoes are important food. The larvae of mosquitoes are important food in the water. And I'm going to tell you a secret I want you to tell everybody you see. Mosquito larvae invented snorkels. Everybody say scuba. Scuba. Scuba stands for self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. The snorkel is a little different. Snorkels were invented by mosquito larvae. Everybody say, nature did it first. Yeah. Who invented scuba? I did a program in 1970. Yeah. It was a Cousteau involvement day. Jacques Cousteau was there. I met him backstage. I was doing little things in a pond study, and he was doing the big, and anyhow, I asked him a question, because make a book. In a book it says, Jacques Cousteau invented scuba. I said to Mr. Cousteau, I said, Mr. Cousteau, who invented scuba? And he said, diving beetles. Diving beetles are an insect, harder to do on the left side, are an insect that carry a bubble of air attached to their abdomen and they breathe with it. Everybody say, nature did it first. Yeah. I want you to meet a different animal that also likes to eat. Everybody say, mice. I don't know if you're going to know who this is. Yeah. When I got out of my car today, a frog landed on my head. Everybody say, Make a fist, put it under your chin, push out 2 fingers. This means frog in sign language. Everybody say true frog. True frogs have webbed feet. Everybody say tree frog. Tree frogs have sticky toes. Go like this. Now everybody say toad. Everybody say toads are frogs. Toads are in the frog family. And toads will not give you warts. Forget about that. Frogs are one of my favorite. I'm going to bring out a frog that has spent, well, it lives in my bathroom at the house because there's water there. There's a source. I'm not talking about the toilet. Yeah, water there so I can rinse the animals. And one time I was watching, I don't know, maybe it was a Packer game. Yeah, okay, I was watching TV and I heard, I could hear the bullfrog making noise. And I think it's because sunlight energy, point to the sun, make a circle, shine on yourself. The sunlight energy is changing. Earlier today, we heard a cardinal. My wife heard a cardinal singing the spring song. Yeah, a couple days ago I heard, listen to this, cheeseburger. Everybody say, cheeseburger. Try this. Cheeseburger. The chickadee, the black-capped chickadee was singing a spring song because even though we have a couple more months of winter, spring is coming. I want you to meet the bullfrog. Now, make a book. In a book it says frogs eat flies. You know why they say that? Nobody likes flies. Yeah. Bullfrog's favorite food is other frogs. Bullfrogs eat other frogs. Why? Because they're hungry, not because they're mean. I want you to say hello to the bullfrog. Everybody say, hello, bullfrog. Yeah. Listen. Yeah. I'm going to clean this up later. I don't know if I had permission to do that. This is a common bullfrog. Happens to be a boy because it has big eardrums. Right behind the frog's eyes, there's 2 big circles called the tympanum. Everybody say tympanum. Move your lips. Ready? Tympanum. The bullfrogs, if the bullfrog's tympanum is bigger than the eye, it's a boy, smaller than the eye, it's a girl. And check out these webbed feet. Bullfrogs are one of my favorite in Wisconsin. And they eat other animals. One time, I saw a movie, so I know it's true. Yeah, I saw a garter snake grab the foot of a bullfrog. Big mistake. Bullfrog turned and ate the snake. Yeah, animals do what they need to do to survive. Everybody say, bye-bye, bullfrog. Yeah, everybody say, no splashing. Yeah, this is my friend the bullfrog. Everybody say, peace, love, and frogs. Yeah, everybody, let's try it again. Everybody say, peace. Go like this, peace, love, frogs. Yeah. Now, there's one more animal I want you to see. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite. And you're going to hear me say one of my favorite. Everybody says, what's your favorite? Usually my favorite animal is whatever I'm holding. And a couple months ago, it was my granddaughter. Never mind. But guess what? I'm going to bring out an animal that's so comfortable. It likes to eat mice. It actually can climb trees. But it has no legs. Yeah. Everybody say, it's a snake. Everybody say, snake. Everybody say, when I bring out the snake now, do not scream. You know why? Because it bothers me. Yeah. And snakes don't have ears. They can't hear you. Well, some people say they feel vibrations, like the beating of a drum or the beating of your heart, which is like a drum. I'm going to bring out this snake. This snake is sometimes called the pumpkin snake. You know why? Everybody make an orange. Everybody say, anaranjado. Orange, anaranjado, is orange in Spanish. This snake is a pumpkin snake. I'm going to call it a pumpkin snake. My friends call it the pumpkin snake. Everybody say, hello, pumpkin snake. Yeah. This snake is a red rat snake. It's in the rat snake family. It's related to the fox snake and the gray rat snake, which live in Wisconsin. This kind of snake does not live in Wisconsin unless it's a pet. And this is not an official pet because the hotel said no pets, never mind. I put it on my head, you know why? Because I don't have to say, may I have your attention, please? Because my head is warm. Feel your neck. Is your neck warm? Everybody say warm blood. Feel your armpit. Is it warm? Everybody say warm blood. Feel your head. Regardless of what your brother and sister say, you got a huge brain. Everybody say warm blood. Yeah. I put the snake on my head because it warms it up. And the snake is a constrictor. This snake likes to eat mice. And it sticks out its tongue. I don't know if you can see. What color is its tongue? Can you see its tongue at all? Raise your hand if you can see its tongue. It has a red tongue. And this one shed its skin fairly recently. It's called an amelanistic red rat snake. In a pet store, they call this a corn snake. I don't like the name corn snake because they don't eat corn. And they don't really live in the corn. And guess what? All snakes are predators. All snakes eat other animals. There are no vegetarian snakes. Red rat snakes have cousins in Wisconsin, the fox snake and the gray rat snake. Yeah, those are in the rat snake family. This kind of snake, now there's one last snake I got to show you before I say thanks for coming here today. Yeah, this snake came from India. India. And this snake likes to eat rats. Yeah. Oh. Everybody say, hello, Python. This is, oh, baby. Does that feel good on a bald head? Stay out of my mouth, though. Stay out of my mouth. Oh, by the way, when I said amelanistic, that means it doesn't have any black color. A lot of times people say the corn snake has a black and white, like piano keys, belly, so it looks like Indian corn. The problem with that is what corn is not Indian corn. I don't like to call it Indian corn because all corn came from native people. All corn is native corn. Some's yellow, some's, different kinds. Now, in a couple of minutes, you're going to get a chance to ask me some questions, I guess. I want to say thank you. Everybody say thank you. And I hope that I can visit you sometime, and maybe next year we'll be live along the river to learn about eagles in person. Get out with your family in a safe family group and look for birds. Eagles are birds. Look for all kinds of animals, evidence in the snow. So I want to say thank you to the Alliant Energy Foundation and other sponsors, and to the Ferry Bluff Eco Council and the Trip Museum and the Wisconsin DNR and the Chamber of Commerce. I'm really happy to be here today. Have a great day. Bye, everybody. Oh, questions. There's going to be some questions. I think I'm ready for the questions.
Great job. Great job, David. We do have some questions. And John, who's in Chicago, he was very interested in your presentation, and he would like to know if turtles make good pets, and if so, which kind are the best to be a pet?
Everybody make a turtle, put the shell on. I think some turtles make really good pets. I think some turtles make really good pets. You have to think about this. You have to make sure you take care of them in the best way. Now, some people will get a turtle from the wild, especially like a water turtle. I don't think they make really good pets because all turtles can carry salmonella bacteria that can make you sick, but it doesn't hurt the turtle. So turtles from the water, from the wild and in the water, probably aren't the best pets, although you can have them in a tank. I like a pet that I can hold, that I can touch, that I could... Who turned out the lights? Who turned out... Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I like an animal like a box turtle or a tortoise, one that was rescued or one that was raised in captivity. Land turtles, you can wash them, keep them clean, take care of them just like everything else. But remember, they need to have a space to be warm and cool, a place where they can warm up or cool down, some water, some food. Oh, by the way, there's some leftover skin here. If you were here today, I would auction this off. It would be a big price. Turtles, I think, are the best. Tortoises or box turtles. A box turtle is not a tortoise. A tortoise officially doesn't drink any water. It gets all of its water from the food it eats. But don't tell anybody, but my Russian tortoise will often drink water. But the books say no.
You know, John in Chicago also has a very important question. He wants to know what kids, not adults, but what kids can do to help keep eagles safe.
What can kids do to help keep eagles safe? Wow. Very important things to think about. If you're a hunter or if you know a hunter or a fisherman, is to start to use non-lead tackle and bullets and ammunition. Get other kinds of ammunition like copper and use something other than lead for your fishing so that eagles, a little tiny little bit of lead in an eagle's body, they don't pass it through their system when they poop. It gets built into their muscles, and they can die from a tiny little bit. So that's the best thing adults can do. Kids can do, start to learn about the animals. Realize that in your own backyard, like Chicago, there are eagles who live there. And if there's eagles there, man, one of my favorite places to go there is along the lake shore and look for great blue herons. There's one right over there. Everybody say, that's not real. Great blue herons nest in big trees, and sometimes I've seen eagles in a great blue heron nest. Maybe they have to remodel or build it up bigger, but that's a good idea. Get out and learn about nature and tell your friends about it. And remember, it's not just in national parks and places way far away, it's right in your own backyard. So exploring nature, getting outside, yes, in this day of COVID, watching nature videos is a good idea. But learn about things that live right where you are. Like the Chicago, there's a group, Chicago Parks. I often do programs for them. Chicago Parks has some great nature oasis things that you can get involved in.
So you mean to say that if you learn more about nature, that you can help protect it?
That's exactly what I mean. If you learn, everybody say learn, more about nature, you can learn how to protect it. Some people say that unless you love it, you won't take care of it. But I'm going to tell you a true story. Everybody say true. I didn't learn about animals and nature, are you ready for this? Until I got to college. Yeah. I grew up playing sports and stuff, which is good. And I played Army even though my dad is a Marine. Sorry about that. And we did all kinds of things, normal. We went camping, but I remember it rained a lot, and we had a tent that if you touched it got wet, never mind. We didn't go fishing. We didn't go hunting. I didn't learn about animals until I got to college. And I was asked to be in a seminar, and we read a great book called A Sand Colony Almanac by Aldo Leopold. And we read that book, and we watched geese. I think I hear one now. We heard geese fly into the Kellogg Biological Sanctuary. I won't tell you where that was. Sorry about that. But I learned about nature reading a book, and then I was able to go out with kids and explore nature, and I realized They listened to me. When I was outside teaching, they listened to me. So I realized I could do that for a living. So if you are experiencing nature with your parents and you're still young, yeah, you got a head start.
I'm kind of curious. I started counting, but I lost track. You said that a lot of different animals eat mice. A lot of different animals eat mice. How is it that we have any mice left?
Babies, lots of babies, 4 or 5 litters a year. Babies, mice, babies. Yeah, mice have babies. I'm going to tell you to do this. Get a plastic peanut butter jar, scoop up some snow outside, fill the jar with snow, but don't pack it. Just fill the jar with snow. Take it inside. It's too big for your armpit. Don't worry about that. Just take the peanut butter jar with snow in it inside and melt it down. And you will notice that snow is mostly air. Snow has water, but it's mostly air. And because there's air and snow, animals can live under it. And mice can tunnel under the snow. They are so comfortable in the snow, they have babies under the snow. 4 or 5 times a year they can have babies, 10 babies at a time. When people have babies, maybe 1 a year. Sometimes there's twins. Sometimes there's 7, and then you're on television. But guess what? Little mice have lots of babies, and because there's a lot of reproduction, there's always more to go around. Scientists tell us that there's always more prey than there is predators. If there isn't enough, then there won't be any predators. Animals won't be able to survive if they can't find food, especially in the wintertime.
What fascinates you most about animals?
What fascinates me most about animals is that they're different than me.
Are they?
Very few animals are bald. Yeah. Some have hair and all the weird, never mind. In their ears. Yeah, wait till you have hair in your ears. Yeah. I like them because they're so different. And I often like the underdog. I like the animal, the person who gets picked on. I try to stick up for that person. The animal that gets picked on. A lot of people don't like snakes. I don't want to be bit by a snake, but I learn about snakes and I'm fascinated by it. I don't want to be bit by a honeybee or a hornet, but I still appreciate them and understand that they fit into nature. Yeah, and even things we don't know where they fit, like ticks. I had Lyme disease once. I had Lyme disease, but I don't hate ticks. I have 2 children. When our children were born, we were told if they act out, if they had bad behavior, attack the behavior, not the child. If a tick bites us, attack the behavior, not the tick. The tick is doing what it's supposed to do. Just so happens it can carry a disease that can hurt us. So we have to, like the virus now, we have to use science to try to figure out and take care of each other.
I would guess that many of the people watching today really want to know, what is it like to hold a snake?
What is it like to hold a snake? Is that the question?
Yes.
I think it's awesome. A lot of times kids will tell me they saw a bigger snake, and I said, that's great. And some people try to say, you need a bigger snake, and I said, get your own show. I have the right number. People, how many animals do you have? I have the right number. Yeah. And I usually have to ask my wife, well, I don't even ask anymore. I don't need any more animals. I have just the right number. Because I like to think about frogs, turtles, and snakes. My business is called the Frog Chorus Nature Education. And I like to talk about frogs, turtles, and snakes, and animals who live in the habitats of eagles. And sometimes in August at the International Crane Foundation and the Crane Fest, I do animals who live with cranes. Some people wonder, why did you bring frogs, turtles, and snakes when we're talking about eagles? And it's because they live in the same habitat. They need some of the same things. And matter of fact, eagles will eat a variety of food. Yep. And holding the snake is just, they hang on to you. They're snuggly. They're not dirty. They look wet, but they're dry. Like the Mr. Clean commercial.
Now, if some of the people who are listening to this, they'd follow your advice and go out to go hiking into the wild, if they come across a mouse now or a snake in the summertime, Should they pick it up?
Should they pick up a wild snake or a mouse? I would say no, because everybody smile. Everybody say they can bite. These were pet animals given to me because nobody wanted them anymore. Yeah, that's a very good question. I use a friend of mine, I didn't bring her today. Her name is called Annette. Yeah, her name is Annette. I usually bring a net because I use it not only as a walking stick, but to capture or pick up something I want to look at closely. Wild animals, many of them will bite. Why? Because you're a giant. Look how big you are. You're a giant. Compared to these snakes, you're huge. Yeah. And a giant might make the little animal afraid, and they might bite as a defense. So I would say the best thing is don't pick up a wild animal. Yeah. And if you have to, I would use a net to pick it up so I could look at it. I used to work I will tell you this, I worked at camps where I was the nature guy, and sometimes a scientist can see the evidence of the animal. They can see its scat where it pooped. You can see its tracks in the mud or the snow. Snow is the best time to see its tracks. And a lot of times we don't see the animal because many times they're active at night. They're active at night. So sometimes I think it's important to see the live animal, and sometimes you got to see them in captivity. Yep. But in the wild, that's a good question. I would not pick up a wild snake or a wild mouse unless I had the right tools and probably a bigger person to do it with you, a scientist, to maybe if we're exploring something. So kids, don't do it.
David, you've been sharing your experiences and sharing your knowledge for a year or two or something like that. And what is the thing that you would most want someone to use that knowledge to accomplish?
Well, I think many times, personally, I've been teaching since 1974. And Picasso, it's attributed to Picasso. He said something once. His goal in life is to discover his gift. And the purpose of life is to give it away. I feel that my purpose is to bring joy and give away my enthusiasm, my style of teaching to other people, to bring joy to families, to kids, adults, all ages. And I think it's important that we go away with the idea that we're part of this. We're not apart from nature. We're a part of nature.
David, thank you very much for giving us that joy. And thank you very much for being with us, and we hope that you come back. And
thank you, Jeb. Bye, everybody.
It is great to have you, and thank all of you who are still with us. Thank you for joining us today. We will be having further events. The next one is January 23, which is 1 week from today. And we will start at 1 o'clock, perhaps closer to the real 1 o'clock, because we've worked out lots of bugs today, and this is a new experience for all of us. And but we hope you can join us next January 23. As Marge was saying, and as David has said, all of this conservation work requires resources to get done, and those resources are people to help and volunteer, money for us to be able to do things, and good thoughts and good learning so that people can act appropriately now and in the future. We hope that you can give in those various ways to the organizations that need that. And we thank our sponsors who have done that to bring today's programs together. And we'll show you those credits. Next week, we'll be talking about the Birds of Prey show that Schlitz Audubon will present. We'll talk a little bit more about winter ecology of eagles, because I will be here again, and I will always talk about winter ecology of eagles. And we'll also learn about Old Abe, and we'll learn about Uncle Bootsy, who is a very special bird that may look like an eagle, but is not an eagle. And you can find out more about Uncle Bootsy next week. So with that, we appreciate your attendance. We hope that you can share with us your feedback and support the many sponsors that make this possible. And thank you.